evening, welcome to the Goffstown Planning Board. This is a regularly scheduled meeting. We normally say the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the meeting, but to me it takes on a special meaning being September 11th today. Tim?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tim. We will also start with introductions, and I'll start down at Dave's end of the world.
Dave Pearson, an alternate member.
Richard Freeman.
Barbara Griffin.
Tim Searles.
Tim Redmond.
Scott Ozana, Town Engineer.
Mark Lemay, Selectman's Rep.
Joshua Douglas, Selectman Rep.
Philip Devanza.
David, you'll be voting tonight in Colleen's absence.
You forgot Joanne. You didn't let Joanne introduce herself.
Well, she didn't speak fast enough. Go ahead,
I
Joanne.
my mouth was open.
Okay.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
I'm sorry, Joanne, for not giving you your second. And David will be voting on all matters tonight. All right, the first item is correspondence and action items. Joanne, what do we have? Anything that is important? We have minutes?
We have minutes, 2 sets of minutes,
Okay.
one from the July 24th and the other from August 14th.
Okay, we'll begin with minutes then.
And there's also, in there, there's also a proposed correction to the 8:14 minutes.
I read it in an email.
Motion to approve.
Okay, well, let's talk about the minutes of September 24th.
Motion to approve.
Phil Devanza,
Second.
seconded by Joshua.
Of what? Of
July.
August 14th or July 24th?
July 24th.
Okay, we're talking about July 24th first. Thank you.
That's what I said. Any discussion on the minutes from July the 14th? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Extension.
One abstention.
Dave abstained.
2 abstentions, for the record. David and Bear, and Richard Freeman. Okay, minutes from August 14th,
Motion to approve with the correction.
please.
Second.
Did you say with the correction?
Yes.
And the correction was sent to us in an email, as I remember. Joanne, could you just say for the record what the correction was, please?
It was just a spelling of Catherine's name.
Okay,
It was spelled incorrectly.
thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Extension.
Another abstention. Richard Freeman.
Wasn't there.
Thank you. Okay, moving down, Joanne. We have a copy of the matrix as number 2. We have requests for comments, recommendations on number 3. Could you explain that, please?
Yes, so this is the 30-unit, I can't talk tonight, I think I'm getting sick, I'm not feeling well.
Well, thanks for sharing.
I have a tickle
Do
in
you
my
need to
throat.
move farther away from the rest of us?
So,
Sit with the audience.
this
Everybody
is,
wants to slide down over here?
this is a request from the select board for the planning board to comment on the permanent easement for Park Place condominium, which is the 30-unit apartments, or not apartments, they're condominiums, that Ed Monte owns, that's over by the Shell station. And they would like comments, they're having another public hearing at their next meeting, and they would like comments from the planning board before they take a final vote on this.
I'm not making a comment. We voted on this plan.
So the planning board voted to approve the plan, and they needed to cross the rail trail, so I guess the planning board was in favor of it that night.
So
No,
there,
it was subject
in
to
your
the-
packet, there's a little drawing, and it
Right.
shows that the town actually will be granting the developer an easement to cross over the rail trail, but the town also needs an easement to move the rail trail onto the applicant's property. So there's 2 different colors on the map, which,
So does that mean the town becomes responsible for the easement and accidents and such for the rail trail on that private property? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think we're just being granted
That-
like a cross-access easement.
Okay.
Basically,
Right.
Everybody,
an access.
Which was basically what we discussed was gonna have to happen when the plan came through, so the approval was subject to,
But it's required that the select board hold a
I understand that, but it was
two or
subject
three
to that
hearings. So, as a result, the planning board normally comments.
Well, this,
These easements were a condition of the approval.
Right.
Correct.
So they've already,
we've already, I'd say the planning board made its statement when we made our approval and the conditions of approval. You can look, the record can reflect that.
motion for no comment at this
Motion for-
time, given previous
Second.
approval of the plan.
Okay.
Barbara? And who was the second from? Richard?
Richard?
Okay, the motion is for no comment on the map 5 lot 54. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes unanimously. We have a copy from the Friends of the Rail Trail Committee stating that Hawks Motorsport has finished rail improvements located at their lot up the road a little bit, 549. Let that be entered into the record.
The contribution for those improvements amounted to $10,600.
And we have a copy of an administrative determination that no site plan is required for Grasshoppers Landscaping to be located where the former Hawks trailer site was located. I'm curious as to how that determination was made.
So we
Because-
had
go ahead.
a TRC meeting a few weeks ago on that, and they came to us and described what they wanted to do. They're basically setting up bins for, like loam and
There's a memo on it.
sand and things like that. And then they're also setting up a little area where they call it the hardscape area, where they have like grills that are built into the brick wall that you would, put on your patio. So they are using the office space with 2 people they would have working there. They'd be using the office space that Hawks was using. They're not making any changes to it. And the open area where the trailers were will have a less intensive use because they're not covering the whole thing. However, there was something mentioned about those properties renting out spaces for high school students to park. And that was not told to us at the time. It was just something I happened to see on Facebook. So I need to look into that further.
Well, I don't know how other board members feel, but I disagree with the decision because the traffic is going to be larger now. You're going to have vehicles coming and going to the bins. It's not like the trailer place where the trailers took up the entire lot. Now you're going to have traffic rotation in and out of there. So I think that should have been a planning board decision, but that's just me speaking.
Phil?
Well, please.
Tim, my understanding, or that a administrative decision is a decision that comes from, let's say, the building inspector. Or the code enforcement officer makes a determination. To me, that's an administrative decision.
That's something different.
I understand. But we have a technical review committee that is just put together. And the way I read this, and my understanding was that this committee made an administrative decision about the requirement of a site plan. When have we done this before?
It's been done many, many times.
We've had them when it was a similar use, if a restaurant went into a restaurant or a retail went into a retail, but this is a complete change of use, in my opinion.
Well, it's basically retail to retail.
Well, it basically is a kind of a sketchy word when you're talking about a decision.
And we did look at, we had, the people who are on this committee, it's the police, fire, captain, the police, I think he's a lieutenant, the building inspector, Scott, myself, the sewer commission, not sewer commission, the sewer superintendent, we all looked at this and he showed us how the travel, you know, through the area would work as far as the travel lanes go. And we didn't feel that there would be an issue with it.
So-
Other,
so
other
what
applicants,
the-
other applicants have tried to go into the barbecue guy, and because it has 150 feet of open frontage with no driveway and no determination of how traffic comes and goes, we denied that applicant at the time for the barbecue, as you may remember. Yeah, we did.
Barbecue restaurant
The
or?
guy wanted to have a barbecue trailer in there, and we
Oh.
said it was, the traffic coming and going and parking could be problematic.
It's hard to get in and out of there even when you're servicing your vehicle.
So I'm concerned about what we're gonna look at for vehicles coming and going into this yard. They're just gonna dive in anywhere across the gravel where there's an opening?
So the frontage where the trailers used to be parked in the
Yeah.
front is gonna be the display area. And they're aware they need to keep it out of the right of way, so there'll be, the patio display area with stuff to stop people from going in and out of there, so they are actually gonna reduce the opening. And one of the other things was, there's, some other local businesses in town that, have the material bins, and they weren't required to come to the planning board, so that was part of the reason that we thought they weren't, this group wouldn't need to be. Kimberly, who used to be on the board, was very adamant that one of them should have had to come. I don't know if you all recall that, but, so that was kind of where we were thinking, is this same use came up, and
Didn't the folks down at, the towing place down there behind the auto in Pinardville, was that guy there? And we approved the towing company in the back after we had a site plan for bins back there for a landscaping company, and they had to show us where the bins were gonna be and how they're gonna be located. So there is precedent for this type of business.
Mr. Chairman, am I missing something in the package? It says there was a sketch provided.
Yeah, I didn't get one either.
Okay, I just wanna make sure I didn't miss something.
Yeah.
There's no sketch
We didn't,
here.
we didn't get the sketch, it stayed at the committee.
Oh.
Barbara?
That building has been operating as Lord knows what for longer than anybody has been in town on this board, and that's saying something. So I don't know how much authority we have, number one, to be saying anything about the use of that building. In my opinion, the Hawks trailer use of that site was a monstrosity. He had trailers in the right-of-way. If you went there on a particular day, there would be trailers being moved around. It was a nightmare. That site has been cleaned up dramatically. It's always had traffic in and out of it. I think a sketch, it's too bad the sketch wasn't provided, because that would probably help.
Yeah,
If
I
you-
thought it was.
if you need to go back to talk about the parking issue, then you need to go back to talk about the parking issue. But, you know, I don't have an issue with it, because I thought the Hawks' use of that site was wild. You would have never passed any sort of plan
It
for
restricted
how
quite a
we,
bit of use in that area, I agree, Barbara.
so, you know,
But we're talking about like bins to get material out, is that what we're?
Yeah, landscape yard.
Yeah, so like those things are pretty large, which means that you're gonna have a lot of like machinery backing in and out of that too, into that area.
well, it's hard to know, because you don't know,
Haven't seen a
you don't have
sketch.
a sketch.
Yeah.
You know, because if it's on the boundary and they're backing in and out on the site, there's gonna be actually less use of the site than there was when Hawks was there.
So they're supposed to be putting the
And
hard.
without a sketch, Joanne, it's gonna be impossible for the board to look at this
Well, yeah, okay, well, I can provide it for the next time.
and deal with what the response is to the parking issue.
So does that put a stay on them starting working down there?
No.
Well, then what's the
I don't
point?
think they're planning on it with the way they've got their parking set up. It seems like they're gonna just use the parking to make money this winter, and then,
Well, if we're gonna see a sketch after the fact, after it's been made an administrative decision, and they're gonna start work down there, I find it unnerving that this is a board, and I think it's our prerogative to make decisions. It's a change of use, and clearly a change of use is something we look at site plans for.
It says in the ordinance that the, I don't know the exact wording, but these decisions can be made
What ordinance?
in our ordinance. I think it's the development regs. These decisions can be made if it's not increasing traffic, personnel, things like that. And after talking with the owner and reviewing the site and taking a look at what the site looks like after it's been cleared off, we all felt that that was a good decision.
Mark, please.
En route to the meeting tonight, I noticed as in the yard as I drove by, in the very back of that parking lot where the trailers used to be, he's got a tape flagged out area.
2 of them.
Oh, I didn't notice the second one, but I'm not sure if
That's
those are where
the parking delineation.
parking's gonna go there.
That's what they're using for the student parking right now. So far, I've only counted a total of 6 cars during
Wait a
the day.
minute.
So, I have a quick, if that's parking
wait,
right there, where they put
is
the
Mark
bench?
done?
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of confusion here, and I'm just trying to figure it all out.
I think they found a way to make money right now without having to do anything to the site, and that's selling parking spaces to high school students.
Okay, so when the school season's over and they start building, are they gonna have parking there next year for the students too?
That I don't know. They didn't mention the parking to us. That's why Joanne said it was a surprise to us when she saw it on
So if they're gonna
Facebook.
have parking there, where are they gonna put the bins?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
oh, well.
So that's
Do
the,
they need a permit for the cars to be parked
Phil?
there?
I have no idea.
When the trailer place came in, it was agreed that it wasn't a change of use because it used to be a car dealership,
Right.
a Ford dealership. And they were dealing with sales of vehicles, and the dealership deals with sales of vehicles. Trailers are vehicles, so it was the same use. This is a different use. My concern is, this administrative decision is being made with this sketch that we haven't seen by somebody outside of this board. If the occupant or tenant of that property decides to change things, tries to expand, decides that he doesn't like the way the traffic flow is on it, and he decides to move it, what's the authority? It can't come to us because we didn't make the decision. There's nothing to go by. It is a change of use.
It would go to staff.
Well, we're not dealing with it tonight anyways, because we've been told there's another issue that needs to be looked into. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes.
So
But that
why
does,
are we talking
but that
about it?
does put a stay on them doing anything until that. It's, my point, Barbara, is that if they,
This board cannot put a stay on anything.
Tim, we don't have any power to do that.
well, we have the power to approve site plans. I don't think the fire chief and the captain in the fire department and the police lieutenant should be making planning decisions. They're not, they don't have any,
Tim,
they know
I'm
nothing
gonna-
about our regulations.
No member of this board or the board itself has the right to say that you can or cannot do a use of a property. Our authority is for compliance as for planning and applicants. If there is an issue with the site use, then a complaint needs to be filed with the town hall, and we have a zoning code enforcement officer to look into it. So if someone has an issue with the use as it is existing now, then a complaint needs to be filed with town, and it will go to Jack, who will look into it. But for this board to start saying that users of commercial or business property in this town are going to stop or do things without anything before us legally to deal with, I think it's a great overstep of our authority.
Richard?
So, before this all takes place, do they still have to get, one of the certificate of occupancies? Doesn't that come to us?
No,
No.
no.
It's
That
a new
goes back-
business, isn't it?
Those go to the building department.
Okay.
It would
See
never
us.
come to us. That's just something that would never come to us. We don't have any sort of.
No.
And they're not changing the building at all, so
Yeah.
it already has its certificate.
No, I just want to
They don't need
register
any
for the
building
record
permit.
that I feel this was an incorrect decision and it should have been done by the planning board, aside from what anybody else thinks. Okay. Any more comments on the decision on the landscape yard? All right, so our next order of business is the CIP public hearing for the CIP committee matrix from 26 to 31. I will give the basic recap that I was trained by another planning board member, and that it is simply that the Capital Improvement Committee is a subcommittee of the planning board. We are not a budget committee. We do not make decisions on numbers. We get requests from town departments and committees, and we try to plug them into a six-year matrix to even the tax burden on the taxpayers in the town of Goffstown, and that is our sole purpose. After we arrange them in a matrix and move things around if we do, we have a public hearing here, and the planning board votes to accept it or reject it. At that time, if it is accepted, it goes to the budget committee and the select board for all financial decisions. So that's the purpose of the Capital Improvement Committee, the subcommittee of the planning board. So we had, I will get the names here in front of me so I don't mispronounce anybody's names. We began on May 29th, and we concluded on August the 7th. Myself served as the planning board representative and the chair. The select board representative was Mark LeMay. The budget committee representative was Olivia Welch-Erdahl. The school board representative was Jack Carbonneau, and the alternate for the school board was Vanessa Hayes. We have two community at large members, James Raymond and Brad Parkhurst, who are both here with us in the audience tonight. So it has become the committee's plan we have, and we let other members of the committee speak to the different departments and their requests. We'll try to keep it brief and get things moved as long as we can. So I'll call on Brad Parkhurst to come up first, and he is going to speak to which departments, Brad?
I'm going to do sewer, library, and parks and rec.
Thank you. For the record, you have to give us your name, even though I know what it is.
Does everybody in town know me by now?
Well, some people might not, Brad.
My name is Brad Parkhurst. I'm a community member at large on the CIP committee. And I'm going to be presenting for the Parks and Recreation Department, the library, and the sewer. It'll be very brief, basically covering the year 2026 and giving you a quick synopsis of the outlying years of what they're looking at. Now I got to change to my reading glasses.
Brad, are you going to do vehicles first and then projects second? Is that how you're going to proceed? Because people would like to follow along in the matrix.
The only vehicles that I would deal with in this one would be sewer, and as sewer is all self-funded, it's not on the matrix. The sewer department pays for their own vehicle. It's not no tax impact.
Which department are you starting with
Isn't
first?
the sewer vehicle here? I thought I
That's
saw it.
that would be the sewer department, and that's the only one
Sewer's
that
on
has
page
the vehicle
5.
in it, but it's not on the matrix under the vehicle. It's listed just under the sewer department
Oh,
as an
here,
expense, and that's in the year 2030. And again, this is funded by the sewer department.
I would like to say, Brad, just for the record here, that on page 2, the Parks and Recreation Department does have vehicles in their inventory,
There's none in the vehicles.
but they're not asking for anything.
No.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get to.
Oh, okay, I'm
Thank
sorry.
Mr. Chairman, on page 5, the top line of the sewer vehicles, it says a 2015 F-350 for $90,000.
That was supposed to be removed. We told staff to take that out. We told them to take that out because that was purchased last year, and somehow it got carried through into this year's, I believe. That's
Well,
right.
H is actually the 2025 adopted budget.
Yes.
So that is what is currently
Yes.
going on, right?
So
I
then,
always
Yeah,
get
that truck was
confused.
purchased already.
that
Yeah.
truck was approved
Yeah.
at last year's meeting, and it was purchased last year.
So the other one is the Dodge Ram, which is
That is
in an
correct.
out year,
That's the year in 2030.
2030.
And for the record, they didn't spend 90,000 on the vehicle, it was much, much less. Just for the record.
I would hope for
Yeah.
2015 F-350. So the column we're looking at is I, is that correct?
I guess I represents this year.
Yes.
Okay, so just so everybody's on the same
To
column.
format that better when it's printed.
Brad, which page are we starting on, sir?
Well, seeing as though we already started a little bit about sewer, you want to stay right there?
Unfortunately, Barbara, they don't carry through on the other pages.
I think we should just follow whatever you want us to
That's
follow.
why I said column I, just we're looking at column I for the proposed CIP. Sewer is on page 5.
Okay. So Brad, could you just go at your pace and we'll stop talking?
Okay, well, on your matrix, you go to page 180, not page 180, line 180. Well, page 180 with the arrow knife.
Line
Uh,
180.
Again, the sewer department is self-funding through user fees. Their project right now, and this includes 2026 out through 2028, approximately $550,000, where they'll be doing CCTV along the sewer mains, and these are the streets, primarily Brookline Street, and let me look at the street name here.
They're over there.
They'll be on Higgins, Plummer, and Brookline Street
Okay.
throughout, for the next 6 years. And the first next 3 years are primarily Higgins Street. Again, there's more for the outlying years where they'll actually be in the construction phase. And again, these are, and those are almost $680,000, and again, this is self-funded. No tax impact. And as I already told you, there's, the year 2030, they're gonna buy a new vehicle. Replace it. Questions? No questions on sewer, okay. If you wanna go to library now, library is on I was gonna say page. You make it, 123 on the matrix,
Page 3.
that is correct. And next year, they're looking at, actually, this is a reduced cost of their original estimate, which is $40,000, is $33,000 to finish what had been approved last year, and that's the drainage improvement project that helped to remedy the some of the rainwater that collects in the driveway. They had that work done, they had to let it set for a year, and now they have, gonna wanna repave it.
That work hasn't been completed, the drainage work.
Hasn't even started.
Yeah.
We had a picture the other day with the much water in the parking lot.
Yeah, and the amount of money that they asked for last year, it turns out to be short, so.
Yes, it was reduced.
Well, no, I'm saying it's short in the fact that they went to bid. The bid was astronomical. They've now, I think, worked with you, Scott, to bring some of
I
that
worked
down.
with Eric in my office.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they got it closer, but still not that 33 number.
Well, I'd like to know, is the 33 even accurate? Should there be more in there?
It seems like with the bids, it's possible it probably should be more.
Well, 33 is the repaving, it's not the drainage.
I think that note's incorrect.
Because they have to do some work this year. They've come to the select board and discussed needing an additional $10,000, which I think we,
For this year.
It looks
For
like
this
to-
year.
To complete the project by the beginning of October of this year.
Not happening.
I don't think that's happening at this rate.
I'm giving you the information that I have.
Oh, I know, I get it, Brad, but I'm just letting you know updated information from this week based on what we talked about.
Yeah, it's probably not gonna happen.
Well, our last meeting was a month ago, so.
Right, and I think that the 33, I mean, Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it may even be short for next year, even if they got to the 40K that they need for this year. I think 33 may be even short to finish out some of the work.
I haven't seen the price for that, to repave the whole thing, which this almost seems like that's what that 33 is, but if it's just paving, that number could be close, I don't know.
Is it sort of agreed that that work should get completed this year and next year, that it needs to be done? I mean, because we're really talking about planning and where the budget money needs to go.
I believe Diane is looking for it to be done this year, and she's currently looking for money to complete that job.
To complete the drainage piece of it.
The
Yeah.
repaving.
Yeah, I mean, so the budget committee reduced the
Well, we're
amount,
talking two different things here.
No, it's not the paving, Brad. They have to get the drainage done first.
they have to get the drainage done first. They're planning on getting it done this year. They want to finish that up. So it basically, with the quotes and everything that they've gotten recently, it's come out to 40K, which is what they originally requested last year, before it got slashed, to 20K. So 33K is for the paving, and that would still need to be done in order to finish up the paving for the upcoming year.
Okay.
But that could be done after winter if the drainage got done this year.
Absolutely.
The plan for the drainage was just to cut some trenches through the parking lot, patch them,
And get through the
parking
winter.
lot's in rough shape, so we'd like to repair the
And then
parking
just
lot as
repair the
well.
whole
I
parking
don't know where the 33 came from, Eric maybe got them that estimate, but I'm not sure.
Dave?
We've just started looking at the CIP and we're discussing things that are in flux. How can we make a decision on column I tonight? Why can't this document come back with firm decisions?
Because the department heads didn't give us firm decisions.
And it needs to go to the Board of
They
Selectmen.
presented what they presented on their sheets,
just-
and we put it into the matrix,
Okay, so-
and we leave it up to them to figure out how they're gonna
But
make it work.
we're still gonna vote on column I today? Is that the
Yeah,
intent?
we're gonna hopefully vote on it tonight.
Okay, thank you.
That number may have come.
We're not supposed to discuss numbers at this committee tonight.
I'm sorry.
We're supposed to discuss whether it needs to be moved forward or backwards. That's the only thing we discuss at these meetings.
I just checked the matrix from the end of last year that was adopted, and the only difference was that the 38 went to 33, but there's nothing in here. It's still the window restoration, parking lot repaving, and exterior restoration. There's nothing about a drainage project.
All right, so they have to figure it out, because we're not gonna fix their problems tonight. I think we should move on.
As the chairman said, we take what is presented to us by the department heads, look at them. They provide us with the numbers. We don't research the numbers or anything. Again, we look to see if it's appropriate as far as the tax impact on the town is concerned, and whether we should move it out another year, or if we have other questions. We use the numbers they are giving us and what they said. As far as, other costs people think they might have, I don't know, I'm not aware, I'm not involved in every committee. There is, for the year 2027, a $90,000 request for the masonry, the exterior of the library, the repointing of bricks, and including the chimney, and that's out to 2027. Again, that's their figure, not a figure that we came up with on the board.
Josh, when they came into the board the other night, did they say that they had money already put aside for the drainage?
They have some in a bequeathed fund
Oh,
that they
okay.
are putting towards it. They've also allocated other money from their budget for this year to get forward, but they're short a little.
I think
So
we're
it must not
we're
be a
talking about
CIP
something that's
item.
not even in the matrix.
Yeah, it
There's
must
no
not.
drainage indicator in the matrix,
It
so
must not
we're
be
not
a
talking about the
CIP item.
drainage. We'll just leave it alone at this point. If we want to talk about the paving, it's a request. If it thinks to be moved out to 2027 or something, we can move things. But we're not talking about any drainage numbers, because we don't have a drainage line in the library project. I don't want to get bogged down on the library here, we'll be here till 10 o'clock tonight doing this. All right, next, Brad, could you move on, please?
Okay, next, go to line 149 on your matrix, and that's the Parks and Recreation Department. And the primary request, what is budgeted, as these again, the numbers are given to the department, is $68,000 for a dog park at Roy Park, and also at Roy Park is the building of pickleball courts. The intent is to put the pickleball courts on where there was the pool, and because they have to, and I'm not sure of what LWCF means is, but they have to replace it with a like item. And this, again, the commissioners have voted to utilize revolving fund money and impact fee money to fund this. So it's not a request for tax dollars. This is in 2026.
LWCF are federal guidelines.
Thank you.
So
I
this like
assumed
this,
that, but you know what it is when assuming.
yeah, so Brad, this much like the sewer is funded by Parks and Rec.
No, they're funded by tax
No,
dollars.
well, they're saying that
Su-
they're
The
funded.
sewer, the sewer's an enterprise fund, which is totally funded by user fees.
But-
This just happens to be their funding source for this project.
They're, right, but it says the impact fees, that's what I'm saying, they're funding it themselves, that's.
Yeah.
Yes, they
So,
are.
okay, so the answer is yes.
But when you move up one line, you'll see when they want to do the sports complex tax appropriation.
And if I
In the
could just
outline
comment on the LWCF compliance, it is my position that no one in this town has ever looked into that. They just say it. This grant was from years ago, is my recollection, because we get the same argument at Barnard Park in regards to the requirement to replace the recreational assets. And I don't know that anybody's really checked it out. I'm not saying these aren't worthy projects, but I would suggest that Parks and Rec and their approach to some of these things has not really been scoped out.
Okay, anything else on Parks and Rec for this year, Brad?
That's all for 2026.
Okay, thank you.
You want me to give you a brief synopsis? of
I
the-
think they can read the numbers themselves in the next column over.
I agree.
It's pretty big, and then the next column after that is pretty big, so
And then you
it's gonna be kind of a jump at the Parks Department in the next two
And you see-
subsequent years.
And you see to the right of your last column, which is O, is an explanation of
Yeah,
where the funding comes from.
okay.
Any other questions?
Anybody have any questions for Parks and Rec? Brad, did you have one more?
No, I was doing 3.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'll ask Jim Raymond to come up and speak. Jim? For the record, sir?
I'm Jim Raymond.
Thank you for telling us who you are.
A few things to elaborate on Ken's excellent introduction. In order to have impact fees, you have to have a CIP project. It's required by statute. And it goes not just to the select board and budget committee, but also the school board. They're part of this, so it's, if you don't keep it up, then your impact fees are at risk. So that's one of the reasons we do it every year. The numbers that you see are guesstimates. This is not a proposed warrant article. It's a guesstimate into the future of what the cost could be, treated as a placeholder. The earlier years, it's more, call it accurate. As you get out beyond that, we're guessing. So I don't want you to focus on specific numbers. Those will be changed, I assume, by school board, select board, budget committee before they go on the proposed budget. With saying that, we try to have the department chairs come in as accurately as possible in the earlier years. So let's look. I'm doing police, fire, and I'm substitute teacher for school for Jack, who didn't come. One of the things we've learned, sometimes the hard way, is if you don't keep up with your equipment and vehicle replacement, you don't save money. You drop off your sequence, you have to make it up. The second thing is especially on emergency vehicles, you want them to be available when you need them. When there's a fire call, you can't say the fire truck is in the garage, will be there next week. And similarly on the police. So we've adopted a fairly aggressive replacement schedule. And if you look at the police cruisers on page 1, the top, it reflects that. If you look across on line 5, every year the goal has been to replace 3 cruisers, and we recommend you stay on that. That they have a fleet of, I think it's 10 operational first-line vehicles, and then when they fall off that, they go to the staff, and then they go to Public Works, anybody else that wants them.
I'd say it's worth mentioning that they do get handed down to other town departments.
Yeah, they don't go out of the system unless they're counted. One of the questions that we always ask is, mileage on these, what's the mileage? But as the chief, Eric, will say, mileage is not a good indication on a police car or a fire truck or construction equipment because they sit running, the air conditioner's on, or they watch the speeders. Not putting on miles, it's really an hours issue. So people say, why are we replacing our vehicles at low mileage? It's so high use. So we're recommending we stay on that schedule. Flip over now for the police to page 3 up at the top. There's a few items that for this year, column I, parking lot expansion. The parking lot, when the police station was built, how many years ago, Mark? A long
87.
80, thank you.
Yeah.
The department had 19 officers, now it has 32 plus about 14 staff. So the parking needs have increased, and the parking lot, there's the gravel parking lot, which isn't really finished, becomes an ice rink in the winter. So partially for safety reasons, they'd like to not pave it, but improve it. The second thing is the locker room expansion, as I'm channeling the police chief, but we're competing with towns to the south, southwest, southeast of us that pay quite a bit more for officers, including signing bonuses. And one of the things that we'd like to provide as a town is at least good operating facilities. The locker room is hugely undersized. With all the equipment now, they need really a larger locker room, so to accommodate the additional officers. So
I think it's also for the accommodate the female officers,
Yeah.
because they have an undersized area and the number of female officers has increased, so they need to make it appropriately sized.
Yeah, something that
Is this a footprint expansion of the building or not?
is not an expansion of the building.
Okay.
No, but if you look, well, you raised the issue. Well, let me just take out one more year. On line 95 is a software. This is going to be a major cost, but that's our communication package. You need to keep up to date in the software, particularly with hacks. The risk to your communications and emergency communications is large now. But in answer to sort of Barbara's questions, if you look on line 96, they put in as a placeholder a new police station up on M. Now, that's a guess and when it's going to happen, but at some point there will be a need, just to warn you. Okay, flip back then to fire. Because bigger vehicles, you don't have to buy them as often, but they're pretty expensive. Look on page 1, line 19, we have a tanker to replace. It's a little over $1 million. Takes about 1.5 to 2 years on a regular vehicle, 3 years on a ladder, on the tanker, the ladder truck, tower truck they call it now, to get a new fire truck. So you got to order them well in advance, and the prices will change invariably by the time you do it. If you look down on the next line, you can see the tower truck is out 2030 with a big number, and then they're replacing some vehicles in their normal course. We'll go down to line 31. That's the capital reserve fund. One of the ways the town finances its acquisitions is put money away in the capital reserves, so it doesn't have to borrow. 2 years ago, the town underfunded the capital reserve for the fire, so they're trying to catch up. They only allocated 250, I think, Mark will remember. So to get back online, they want to fund this a little more aggressively, because you look at the the tower truck, or the cost of the tanker, you can see why you're gonna start sucking away money and not wait. On the fire, other stuff, non-vehicle, look on page 3 again, right in the middle. Nothing large. It's a lot of these, the fire station renovation for Mass Road. I don't know if that's just a study, Mark, do you remember if there's a plan?
They did the study, but because of the money issues, we've kind of put it on the back burner right now.
Okay.
So what is 124 if you don't have a
That's
study?
That's for some site improvements, but I'm not, I don't recall exactly, look. I get my notebook out and tell you, Barbara, if you wanna know.
Well, they're presently redoing the parking lot, so that's a
Yeah,
different number.
yeah.
That's a different number.
But that's a different number and different year.
Well, hold on, Barbara.
Thank you.
I was
Actually,
trying
that
to-
wasn't ever budgeted, to be honest with you, that I.
I didn't think it was.
think
I drove
came
by
up-
it and
I think
did a
it came
double
up
take.
at a selectmen's meeting.
We did take it out.
This says, says HVAC, and that number doesn't match. It's 20,000, so I don't know if that 120 is accurate or not. It's just 20. Because in the summary that Sean gave us,
Mass Road.
Mass
Let me see if I can
Road
find
Fire Station HVAC and Facility Study Committee, a study, I'm sorry, for 20,000. So, it's a good question Barbara's asking. I'm not sure that's the right number in the matrix.
Well, 2026 is $20,000 for a new boat. Is that in the matrix, Jim?
Yeah.
Was it
Yeah,
under the
that's under
vehicles?
the approved.
That was in the matrix, okay. Twenty-six. We have Fire Station 2 facility upgrade. I'll just read it quickly. Last year, the fire department changed the CIP request for the Mass Road Fire Station renovation project from 1.6 million to 120,000. Station renovations have been requested through CIP from as far back as 2004. The fire station continues to need critical HVAC and electrical upgrades, ramp and parking lot drainage work and paving, modernization in anticipation of future year growth in both the community and the department. A phased-in approach for upgrading the facility will be the most cost-effective and hopefully economically acceptable approach to the taxpayers during the budget process. Through the budget limitations, the 100,000 removed from the CIP budget. Remaining 20,000 slated to conduct the HVAC study this year, 2025. Results from the HVAC study will provide cost to upgrade the facility moving forward. So it's for a study. 20,000.
So that 120 should be removed, it looks like.
That's right, that was, I think that was the original number, and then they
Yeah.
backed off 100.
Didn't we do an upgrade of that station and talk about that was it for that station? Because it really was being used beyond what it should be, and really the only reason it's still being used is because we don't have any other place, and that if we take anything out of Pinardville, the selectmen will be hung and dried.
I think
Because I just heard like a really big number for renovations that everybody's going, oh, we'll just do it piecemeal every year. So I've been in this town long enough to know I have approved more than one bond that I've been told that's the last time we're ever gonna spend money on this.
So-
And here we are again.
So the worksheet that the fire department submitted for that line has total project cost with the dollar sign and to be determined. There's no dollar figure for that line at this time.
I know it's a full moon and I'm apparently on my horse this week because I haven't been able to ride it for real. But I need to tell you, the CIP process has changed dramatically from what it was. And we are here now looking at numbers for projects where nobody reviews the numbers because that's not our job. And when you ask about numbers, quite honestly, nobody really has good detail or backup for it. And it's clearly not taken as seriously as it used to be because CIP presentations used to have every department head in this
I
room
was just gonna say that.
to make sure that it was going forward. And this has become such a pass-through event that it's just happening. Because I've got other questions coming up about stuff that has been asked about before or I think overlooked. And I appreciate why we need to have it. And I appreciate, God knows, the people meeting on Wednesdays during the summer. But
Thursdays.
I have to, Thursday, on the off Thursdays. I get that the planning board has said it's not a numbers game. It was a numbers game 20 years ago. It has become not a numbers game, and it gets dumped on the selectmen's slab to deal with it. And if we don't have enough backup to know what these numbers are and are changing them at this point, I don't.
Well, the simple thing, Barbara, is to make a motion to move the 120,000 from 2026 out and make them explain better what they want to do with it.
Well,
Well, what's the point of
They
that?
explain, it's just that number is incorrect, and I didn't catch it. It's
Well, if it's
20,000.
incorrect, then we should move it out.
No,
Not
or
leave.
just reduce it
Just
to what was
remove it.
requested. 20,000 is the HVAC study.
And that was already in there for 2025. So for 2026,
Yeah, it was
It
in the
would be
adopted
0.
budget for 25 in column H, next to it.
so it should be, 26 should be 0 for that item.
It should be 0. There should be nothing in there for that, for this year now. Because they didn't give us a number for the fire station upgrade. They left to be determined on the worksheet.
Because they're waiting for the study that's being done.
Okay. So maybe 120 is a placeholder? I don't know.
Mr. Chair, I share Barbara's
Okay.
concern.
So why don't we just make a note in your matrix, both of you, and we'll come back at the end and we'll vote on changes, because that's what we do. All right, Jim, please proceed.
Okay, I'm going to now go to school, which is on page 6. Most of the items for 20, in column I, 26, 27, remember the school has a different fiscal year. It starts in July, I guess.
Yeah.
July.
July.
So it's direct, which makes estimating costs a little more challenging because you're going out further. Most of the items, as you scroll down through the pages, are what really normal replacement items. The one item that's large is on page 7, line 252, a generator for the high school. For a few reasons. One, it's the communication hub for the district. Second is, and goes back in time, where we want an emergency shelter. There was, when Mountain View was built, that was going to be an emergency
And we
shelter
bought a generator
location.
for it.
But if you notice, it has one road in and out, and I think people have said maybe we ought to have another one. So I understand that's one of the reasons it's in the plan. If you look out, though,
Jim, could you talk about the funding source for that?
And I thought we already approved this, because I remember having this discussion about a generator last year.
well, there's one, it's shown for last year, so is this based on waiting for the match?
They had
kept it
applied
in.
for a
They kept it
grant.
in the matrix as a placeholder, because you're right, if you look back over last year and this year, it's the same item, but they were looking for, contingent other funds to pay for it.
So last year we approved it and it's in the matrix, but it didn't get spent?
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
So do you carry it forward or you just leave it as an item? If you look out to 2028, 29, they have a lot of items. And the school board has currently decided that the best way to fund a lot of the really maintenance items and upkeep items is through a lease purchase arrangement. So they're gonna do it in 1 year. I won't comment on the wisdom of that, because it's sort of rolling the dice, but there are, a capital lease is really a form of loan, so they will do it through a capital lease program. The interest rates can actually be attractive because it's treated like it's a nonprofit bond and tax code, so there's some advantages to that. So that's why that year is going to be the busy year, and they want to do it as one major funding. If you look out, though, on page 6, on line 218, as a placeholder, is a new elementary school. I think the Union Leader was discussing this week that enrollment at the Goffstown Elementary Schools is up, unlike most of the other towns, and we'll have to address it at some point. So that's a big item out there on the horizon. But that's pretty much it for the school. They have moved a lot of items that used to be in the CIP, a lot of the technology stuff off of the CIP because it no longer qualifies. They're still doing it, but it's just an operating budget issue. So I don't have to try to explain technology you don't know anything about. But we can have Bear do it for us if he wants.
So, with the 500,000 for the generator that was approved last year, what happens with that money if they haven't spent it?
That's up to somebody else other than
It
us to
was
talk about
not
that.
really appropriated because so this is not the budget, this is just a CIP, so the next step would have been for it to go into the budget. I don't know if that happened or not.
Yeah, I don't know if they're waiting for the funding to come through when they proposed it.
Because it was a grant and contingency funds they were going to use,
Yeah.
Josh.
I'm just,
So it wasn't a tax appropriated money that was appropriated and put aside. It's contingency funds and a grant that they hope to utilize. So there was no actual tax appropriation for 500,000 set aside for them that they didn't use.
okay.
It is quite typical in a grant application that there needs to be some community matching funds. So I would presume, and I don't know, that the school administration, in connection with the approval of the budget last year, would know whether it was budgeted and included in the taxable amounts raised in our tax bill for the town and school district. So, I would hope that someone is following that and that's what's going on. But I don't know that I've ever seen 100% grant for generators.
Agree.
No, and contingency funds. It's a combination of two funding
So
sources.
who's got it, what authority does the school district have for a contingency fund? They
Don't they
don't.
keep so many percentage of their budget?
No, they don't
Yes,
have
they
a-
do. They keep a
Yeah, they have-
certain
Well, they
percentage.
have, as a budget item, they keep a contingency.
Right, so that's, I think that's the money they're thinking that they were gonna have, I'm guessing, without actually. We had a presentation from the facilities manager, and then Scott Gross came in to try to clear up questions. And I, for one, and a couple other members, felt that their process in this matrix was wrong. We felt that this, skipping all these years and hoping it's all gonna come through in 28 and 29 with a $11 million bond, that we felt that it was a little bit presumptuous to think they were gonna get all that money in 1 year at a town vote, and we thought that they should have spread it out, but they felt that this is the plan they wanted to pursue, and that's what we were told. And we don't argue with them.
And I don't know the answer to your question, Barbara, about funding for the generator.
Right, they're just putting in what would need to be, I mean, it would be a gross appropriation, so
Correct, yeah.
I get it. Okay.
Any questions for Jim? Thank you, Jim, for covering for Jack Carbonell tonight, as well as your own. I am going to talk about Public Works and the admin section. Public Works vehicles begin on page 2. The Public Works Director clearly stated that all of his requests for 2025 were zeroed out at the end of the budget season, so he simply put them all back in for 2026. Basically, the numbers carried right across the page, and nothing has really changed under vehicle matrix other than the vehicles that they asked for last year were moved over to this year. So, as Jim stated, this pushes his inventory around in terms of replacement schedules, and that is a decision beyond our authority. Any questions on the vehicles? Public Works projects, go to page 3, line 112. The road plan was presented last year at 1.8 million. It was reduced to 1.15. The director is asked to put the road plan back in at 1.8 million this year. He told us how costs have accelerated, and they got less work done than they wanted to, so he's asking that the funding be restored to the requested amount in this year's cycle. He has something called a critical culvert replacement rehab program. There was some grant money for Montalona Road, matching from DPW operating budget, and then he listed streets: Juniper Page, Center Street, Smith, possible ARM grant, and an HMPG, which I don't know that acronym.
Hazard mitigation.
Hazard mitigation. And using the block grant money at $456,000. For those of you who don't know what block grant money is gas tax money that comes back to the towns based on your, I think it's miles of road, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's a formula DOT
Yeah,
uses.
every year we have to submit any changes
So
to
we
the.
get more money if we didn't have clusters.
If you got more
Yeah, if
roads,
we
you
add
get
more
money.
roads, we get more money. I don't know if it balances out.
So for
in favor of us,
2026, it looks like they expect to use impact fees and off-site improvement fees, as well as highway block grant money for offsetting revenue in the public works budget this year for the project that they request funding for in 2026. You'll see that the road plan accelerates over the years. He put in a cost of, what's the word, Scott? Escalation cost, I guess it is. Not a COLA, it's an escalation clause for materials and labors. And his trucks and everything that are in this year's matrix all got moved out, as all the ones did in the prior year. So it's pretty straight up and pretty simple. We didn't have too much to question DPW on. Any questions regarding DPW at this time? Thank you. We're going to go to the admin department. Admin is page 4, top of the page, 132. Admin has not asked for anything in 2026. I see all zeros under it. Anybody see something different than me?
No?
No, so, but
However, there is a $1.3 million request in '27 to replace the bridge that burned down in the '70s over the river, soon-to-be river. And they're looking for TAP grants. 20% match from taxpayers and 80% from the grant.
That TAP grant.
We did not get.
They did not get the TAP
We
grant?
didn't get the tax.
So it sounds like that 2027 number is going to go away.
Correct.
okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did,
Are we on
you've got
admin?
parking,
We on
we're an admin, we're an
Okay.
admin. So you, in taking a look at things, you've got the parking lot repair and granite curb repointing the following year, I
Right.
see. Has anybody taken a look at the outside of this building?
Needs paint real bad.
It needs more than
Well,
paint.
start with paint, but
It needs to start with paint. And I
Well-
get this admin, it's almost like the old Parks and Rec budgeting approach, which is if we don't ask for anything, we don't get noticed and we can manage along. and it's been like that for years now here in Town Hall. And so I don't understand why we're letting the outside of the building essentially peel and chip away along with some other things. The other thing is there's no renovations or updates needed inside of this building?
Oh, there definitely is.
So why isn't any of it in here?
It's a great
That's up to
question.
the town administrator to propose. I do
I
know
know.
that, I do know that I remember the admin requests at least 10, 14 years ago that I was on this committee. They were asking for carpeting back then, and it's never been replaced, not to my knowledge.
Never. Same carpet.
I don't understand why we're not doing more for the town hall employees, but that's not for us.
So I'm not, you know, this is what's presented, but hopefully when you all go through this budget, it sort of, you know, because I saw the parking lot and I'm like, wait a minute, what about the building?
Only that, the back steps.
So anyways.
And the other, on
So I think
the,
the break room has been another area too.
There are a number of areas that anybody who's in the building with any frequency would know.
we've done work to the building.
No, I'm not saying
I
that
mean,
there
like when they
hasn't.
put all the files in the planning office, they re-supported the ceiling downstairs. We did the drainage project through the basement here. That was huge to get that.
When was that?
They cut a trench the whole length of
Two
the
or
floor.
3 years ago.
2017.
4 years ago. I
Well,
mean,
But it's not like they haven't done anything.
yeah.
I'm not saying.
No, I'm not saying they haven't done anything, but I looked at the nothing and,
Yeah, I think they've scraped it out of other areas, basically, Barbara's, your point, like they're not really planning for overhaul or updates.
All right, and the only other thing in the admin budget, which is Phil's baby, is the Grassmere Hall ADA elevator addition. It's put in for 1.4 million in 2028. They have money set aside, I believe.
We
right?
do.
And they're looking for LCHIP grant as well. I don't know how well LCHIP is funded anymore. But that is in 2028, so we'll get an update on that when we get closer to that date. Questions? Joanne, we have a master plan update in for 2028 also.
Yes. Unfortunately, we have to put it all in 1 year because we don't have a fund set up for it to, like, we couldn't put like, 25,000 a year because we don't have a fund set up to do that.
So, does anybody have any changes or things they'd like to move before we move on to requesting a vote on this? I've heard from this side of the table about one particular item. Fire Department Station 2 renovation line at 120,000. Seems to be the only one that really has been questioned tonight. Well, the library didn't submit the right information to us. We shouldn't be talking about their drainage project because they never made a submission for drainage. That was an in-house thing that they decided to do in-house with DPW. It was never in CIP. So that's why I don't want to talk about it.
So would it be appropriate to move the paving budget to the next year as well?
Well, it would be appropriate unless they finally get the money together and they get to actually get the drainage done. Then that would move their paving out another year and they'd have to live with the bad parking lot another year. And their drainage cut and fill areas would be patched for an additional year, so.
I do think they'll get to the drainage this year, one way or another, they're gonna get there. And they will need the paving. I'm just asking if the number is accurate, because they may end up having to pull from someplace else.
We also rely on the town bid for paving. The town gets a substantially lower price for bidding, for paving, than anybody does for private driveways or commercial parking lots or anything. They get a number for the whole season, no matter what, so those projects can piggyback off of the DPW's bid.
Which is basically what you need for the police station too, especially if they're gonna do something with that parking lot over there, pave it.
Well, I think that's already in the
I
plan.
don't think they said they were paving it.
They should.
I think they said they were putting down NITPAC, which I don't recommend because I have a NITPAC driveway and
Why are
it
they
gets
putting down
very
NITPAC?
icy in the
Well,
winter.
first of all, NITPAC is what you can drive on in the winter and it doesn't turn to ice. Secondly,
it does
NITPAC is
turn
what you
to
put
ice.
down before you pave. So if they live with it for a year and drive on it for a year, then they can pave it next year because the base materials will be in place. It's a good process to follow.
But it does turn to ice.
It'll just be a discussion that we'll end up.
Well, that's for them to decide, not us. So does anybody want to move anything in the matrix?
Do we need to have a public hearing?
We will. I just want to get everything out before the public hearing starts.
Okay.
Anybody want to move anything before we ask for a public hearing?
I just,
This is the public hearing.
I have one question, like some of the vehicles in here have mileage, some don't. I mean, should we be getting mileage with all of them?
We always ask for mileage. We sometimes get it, sometimes we don't. We sometimes get hours, like DPW usually gives us hours, and they didn't give them to us, which we've asked for in the past. So we will have to be more assertive in asking for miles and engine hours in the future.
They may have included it in their backup info.
I think. You definitely keep track of that when it comes to selecting.
Nope. They gave us their own matrix to look at for discussion, and there's no mileage on any of those. So, members, I'm going to open a public hearing if anyone is here from the public to speak on this, and then we can come back to it. This time I'd like to open the public hearing for the CIP matrix discussion. If anyone is here that would like to speak from the public, now's the time to do so. No one's here to speak, close the public hearing. Members? It's not the best process, but it's what we got. Try to work within the parameters of it and make it work. I know the numbers are wacky for this, with the school department, which it's a serious increase in taxes in 1 year, and then even more serious if they get the new school approved. But that's part of the package. Jim?
That's, if they fund that over years, it's like a bond, so it won't have a tax impact in that year. It won't just look at that bottom.
Well, that particular year.
No, it's they're gonna be funding it.
No, if you look at the bottom line,
It's still.
It has a
but
number.
It's not all paid in 1 year, it's not an appropriation, it's funded, either lease purchase or bond.
We also sometimes like to have a bond retired before we take another bond on, and that's part of some processes that are looked at.
Yeah.
But you're looking at 2 large bonds within 3 years of each other, 4 years of each other, so. And then a police station bond. And that doesn't even leave the new library they're asking for, so. We've got a lot of requests in town, but we'll deal with what we're given. Jim?
So, we make a motion to move this as proposed, right, if that were to happen.
Yeah.
It still has to go through.
Budget.
It still has to go through budget. It
And the
still
Board
has
of
to go,
Selectmen.
and it still has to go to the deliberative as well, right?
The Board of Selectmen makes a recommendation. They do not discuss the CIP matrix at the deliberative. They discuss the decisions that the Selectmen and the Budget Committee make.
So there's still a bunch of time, there's still a few more things to go
Right.
before
Steps.
there's the
these-
full rounds, which is why we're
so-
voting on it now,
so,
because it gets into
I say we
everything.
just move it.
What about removing the 120 from fire?
We don't know what that's for, and if
It's,
it's,
it shouldn't be
we'll let
there
somebody else
based on
move
the
it.
information that the fire chief submitted.
I am not confident that it should all be moved out, which is why I'm hesitant to move it.
Mark, do we know if they're doing a study with $20,000 at this time?
If I may be excused for 2 minutes, I'll get the correct answer we need.
Well, go ahead, please.
Thank you.
Make it quick,
All right.
sir. Well, the worksheet has to be determined, so in my eye, then nothing should be in that line because they didn't give us a number. That's just my way of thinking.
Possibility it's a typo, it's supposed to be 20 instead of 120.
Well, if you look at the submission sheet from the fire department for that particular item, we have to be determined in the, on the dollar figure. which means they don't even know.
They used to give us $1, so we knew
That's
that
right.
they were thinking about it and that there was gonna be a number.
And, I got one more question.
Tim, please.
Are we're the first ones, besides the department heads, proposing this in the committees to, the committee that compiled this? The planning
You're
board.
actually the second, because the CIC committee was first.
Right, that's what I'm saying, the committee that compiled this, we are the first ones in the line outside of the committee. So really, like, we're at the lowest level here.
Our committee is a subcommittee of the planning board, which means the planning board has to approve what the subcommittee is presenting to the planning board. If the planning board disagrees, they can move stuff, they can delete stuff, they can do anything they want with it. But after it finds its way to being recommended with or without changes, then it's up to the select board and budget committee to review all the numbers, look at the bottom line, see how the taxes are gonna be affected, and make decisions based on what they think are in the best interest of the town.
And both boards question the department heads on pretty much all of these line items too.
We made the department head explain every number and every request. We didn't just take and say, oh, these are all the trucks here. We made them talk about the truck, tell us why each truck needs to be replaced, and then we decide whether we wanted to move them ourselves. Because in the past, we had moved stuff around, but the department heads have gotten better at bringing in precise, concise lists of stuff, and they're a little less hard to understand. They're much more organized and effective, so that the committee can look at them and make decisions with less problems than we used to have. Because we used to move a lot of stuff. Jim will vouch for it. We used to move stuff all the time, because we felt that if the taxes were gonna, if the request is for 3 million this year, and 9 million next year, and 2 million the year after, we would move stuff around trying to balance that tax number up. But it's not that bad, other than the big projects which muck up the works, in terms of,
And we're only focused on line item I.
yes, that's for this
For
year.
tonight.
Column I.
Column I, yeah, sorry. Alright, that's,
Do you have an answer?
So the answer is, the RFP for the $20,000 is almost done. It'll be out shortly, so that they can do the stuff at Station 2, okay? That'll be for the $20,000.
That's from last budget season.
Yeah, well, the 120 that's here.
Wait, there's 20 in last year that was adopted, where'd that go?
Sorry, the 20. The $120,000, Tim, should not be in the budget. He said, I don't know how that ended up there, but should not be there.
So there's no money requested.
For Station 2,
For 2026.
fire. Line 104. So the chief is stating, or whoever you spoke with is stating that the 120 should not be a request for 2026.
Correct.
So, Tim, do you need a motion to have?
Yes, we do.
I'd like to make a motion to remove line 104, column I, for $120,000 in
Second.
FY 2026.
To remove it,
You wanna move it out or delete it?
I want to delete it.
to zero out.
I'll second his motion, if I may.
I'm just writing it down. Line 104. Joshua made the decision, and who was the second by?
Yes, me.
Mark.
Be Bear or Mark? I think Bear said it first.
And not to question your authority, but why are you at the table tonight?
I asked that question when I got here.
You just said you were here representing the select board.
I
But
am.
you're not a voting member, because Joshua was a voting member.
I think he's here because of the CIP, he was on the CIP.
Yes, and that's where I was going next.
Then he can't technically
But you
vote.
still can't technically vote, so
Okay,
Richard Freeman.
remove my vote then, sir.
Okay,
So
so
thank you for getting the answer.
Bear initially seconded
I
it.
got it. So there's a motion to zero out line 104 for $120,000 in the fire budget. And Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passed. Okay. So that's the only change to the matrix, Joanne.
Okay. Can I just ask a question?
Please, Barbara?
And I get that we're not a money committee anymore. Or this isn't a money process somehow anymore. And this is a school thing, Jim. And this is maybe just a question for the board and not for this board, because it doesn't deal with year I. But the choice of the school to simply throw everything into 2028, 29 and hope for a vote on a big warrant article seems
Presumptuous.
presumptuous.
It's a nice word.
Oh, okay, but, I mean, I understand and I have known more than one community that lets things get to a point where they get big bonds passed because they've let things go down the rabbit hole so badly that people finally come out and vote for it. And I'm a little worried that I see that as a strategy, because when I look at column K, I see things that I do not understand are being put off for what is reality 3 years in the school budget, because this budget, and I want to know whether it was discussed at all, because this I for the school doesn't start for another year, really. It starts in July of 2026. So if I look through these sort of what we're going to bond, I see some things that are clearly capital: air handler, generator, parking lots, right? The existing sign, with the, they're gonna put a message board up at the middle school. I just don't get me going. But I also see locker rooms with individual stalls for the next year in Mountain View Middle School. But when I go to the high school, those things look like they were wrapped in, am I losing it? That was wrapped into the 2028, 29, and I guess if there are issues with locker rooms, and we're choosing to deal with one in 2027, I don't know why we're not dealing with it right away, if that's an issue.
This is our exact comments to the school board, Bob. We made the exact comments to them, and they told us this is the way they wanted to proceed. We do not,
So they really are just letting things,
this is
Go
what they
down the
told us. I'm
tubes,
not
so
passing
they can-
judgment on their decision, I'm telling you that that's what they told us. We tried to get them to spread those out within the matrix so that things could be done in previous years and subsequent years, and they said they did not want to do that, they wanted to leave it where it was and present it as a bond.
so bad. Okay.
So we ended the discussion.
Okay.
Is the plan, I'm getting into the weeds, but is the plan to phase all this work? Because you can't do all that
We're
work
not,
at
we're not,
once.
we're not gonna
You
talk
can't
about
do it all in 1 year anyway.
it. We're not talking about it.
Well, I think there is, yes, this is
Okay.
the lease purchase, or what was, this is the
Mhm.
lease purchase, but the work has to be spread out. It's
Yeah.
not that the lease can't all be done once, so.
Okay.
So Tim,
All right.
was there a requirement that the department heads used to be here and then that requirement was lifted?
Nope, we never asked them to come here. There's no requirement. They can voluntarily choose to be here to answer questions or to support their requests, or they can voluntarily choose not to. So maybe this is a select board decision at this point for you to take it up as a topic at your select board meeting and consider talking to them about what your concerns may be.
I mean, that obviously would be the ones that are, reporting to the select board. It doesn't have anything to do with the school being here either.
No, school is a private, is a different entity.
Different entity.
Okay, we voted on the matrix, and we decided to send it along to the select board and to the budget committee. Tim, did you have one last item? I saw a finger sticking up over there. You're either giving me the finger or you're pointing it up in the air.
We only voted to remove one item.
Correct.
Oh, we all voted on the matrix, yeah, yeah.
One item, yeah.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, the Parks and Rec part, the dog park and the Roy Park, like,
Once again, you need to go to a park and rec meeting and talk to them, not us.
So they have a
Please.
specific amount of time to use their impact fees, and I think they're at their limit, so,
I was
Yes,
just,
they are.
yeah.
okay,
So they
what's
need
a
to- they
revolving
need to be used up.
fund? Is that just?
Fees from sports events and things, they collect fees for different things, and the revolving fund is the money they collect.
So they have like summer camps, Tim, and they have like lacrosse and soccer or whatever else that they're basically facilitating for the town.
Okay,
People pay, a lot of parents pay for those things, so they end up making money. It goes into the revolving fund, and the revolving fund they can use for other
understood,
things from there.
understood, okay. That's all I got.
Okay, I'll move this along, we're getting late. We got another application to do after this, so, I'm looking for a motion to approve the amended CIP matrix.
Make a motion to move forward with the amended CIP.
Second.
Motion to approve the amended CIP matrix by Richard, seconded by Phil. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, I've had it with this process.
Abstaining? One no, everyone else is in the yay column. I'd like to thank everybody on the CIP committee that took their Thursdays, to come to the meeting.
Tedious and hard.
And Colleen came to one, Jim, or two meetings, I can't remember. She came to a couple, I thought. But, or am I thinking wrong?
No, that was last year.
That was the last year. So I'm not thanking you, Colleen, but I am thanking all the rest of the members who took their Thursday nights to come here to the town hall and work on this for tonight's presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for doing it.
Appreciate it, all your work.
All right, so we have an application here, an old business application, Joanne, Eversource Energy easement discussion. I will
Yes.
begin by saying that we had a site walk with the Eversource representatives last Saturday morning at 9 a.m. and we visited all three sites, for those of you who were unable to make it.
I'm all done, I'm going.
So Joanne,
Thank you.
we don't, what are we doing tonight with this? We have to make a determination based
Yeah.
on,
Stay safe, drive careful.
Yes, so you're basically discussing the sidewalk, because some of the members, I don't believe all of the members were there.
Didn't get it till 12 o'clock.
And then you'll hear any follow-up presentation that the applicant may want to give, and then open it up to a butters comments. And then you need to address the criteria for the conditional use permit.
okay.
And then there are conditions included in here by staff for conditions of approval.
Okay.
And can you review what it is that we're giving the conditional use permit for?
Yes, so there is, some of the work that they're doing, they're disturbing the wetland buffer temporarily.
So the conditional use permit is not for the work itself, it's for the crossings of the wetlands?
Exactly.
And is that our only, the only area that this board has authority or jurisdiction over to comment, so to
Yes.
speak, on the work? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? All right, I wonder if the TV camera can see that map.
Happy to orient it.
Well, the TV camera is all over the place here. I
Yeah,
don't know where-
It rotates.
It rotates and follows the voices?
Yes.
So if they're speaking, the map will be on the screen?
They can figure it out.
Got a
There's
camera there.
right
Well,
there.
Focus.
that camera's moving, so.
Okay, because it's looking at you
I
now.
think they're showing that they can get it all.
Okay.
Oh, that one's fake.
So we can leave the, does anybody in the audience want to see that? Because you already saw them all, except for,
We do have handouts as well.
okay.
Are these the same as what we had?
There are two slight tweaks, and some of them were looked at on the sidewalk, but, so I'll have them
Well,
on there.
yeah, we'll need one for the record.
Yep.
Could you please give Mr. McCray my copy?
No, this is from last week's packet, because this is when we had it.
I can take it after the meeting from you, please.
No, no,
Unless you got an extra.
You guys want to show?
I can share with you.
Do we want to start, Mr. Chair, with Locust Hill or
I think I'd like to ask them,
Tibbetts Hill?
I think they'd like to explain to us how they're gonna proceed, and then we can alter their discussion if we see fit.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go over based on the sidewalk and some of the alternatives that we were going to look at.
So are you gonna pick a location like the Locust Hill one to start, or what's
My
your plan?
suggestion was that you start with what might be the more straightforward one, just so we can all
then tell us
reorientate
where you are.
ourselves of the site walk and what we're on.
So this was the first, starting the first page is Locust Hill.
Yep, okay.
This was the last site that was visited on the site walk. I don't believe there were any concerns or issues out at this one. Are there any questions from?
Why don't you explain again what is going on as far as the crossing and why we walked out there? Because
Yep, so it's just, there's kind of a hard-packed access road going up to this one structure from Locust Hill Road. There's no direct wetland impact, it's just for buffer for the construction of the work pad out in this location.
You're not going through the fence, you're creating a new entry point, if I remember correctly, at this
This
one.
is a
Different one.
different spot.
Yeah.
This is the very last spot that was visited.
This one already has an access road that they're able to use without creating anything new.
It's kind of like open ledge face, really.
Yeah. Boulders. So anybody have any questions about this site, or would you like her to give us the whole rundown on it? Just, why don't you review the pad size, the road construction, and such like that to access the site, so we have an overview of what we're gonna see.
Yep, so for the most part that's already existing, there's some open ledge face that would just be top dressed with the crushed stone that's typical of the Eversource right-of-ways. The work pad would similarly be crushed stone. The work pad size at this one is a little wonky because we couldn't achieve the 100 foot by 100 foot, which is what we typically scope for the permit applications. And that's just due to the topography in the area, so there's a little bit of extra room on the eastern side of the work pad, but this would be a crushed stone area. Once work is completed, that crushed stone area would be reduced down to about a 30 foot by 60 foot maintenance crushed stone pad. That'd be for bucket truck access.
So is that going to be crushed stone or the timber?
Crushed
Yeah.
stone in the buffer.
Okay.
That's about it for this site.
This one has no wetland
Correct.
impact, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Just buffer.
yeah, buffer.
Next one.
Okay.
That's what they always say.
This was Tibbetts Hill, the second site that was visited. And this is the location where there's currently a paved apron and wooden gate that comes very close to one of the existing structures off of there. And we're looking to change the location of the entryway down the right way a little bit more across from where there's already a gate on the other side of the road. And that's something that Eversource is working through with the property owner at this location, because it will require some alteration at the entrance point.
Is it gonna be a permanent entrance
That's what
point?
the intent is.
Okay, so there'll be a paved apron associated with this if
So
we're
as I
gonna make it a
recall,
permanent access?
there was some discussion at the site walk about working it out with DPW for a paved apron at that
Correct.
site.
Okay.
We instructed them that your concerns, we took
Yeah.
your concerns
Okay.
carefully, and that any new access off of a town road would require a permit and a paved apron at the
Okay.
end, so that you do not destroy the edge of the town road.
I think there was discussion about potentially fixing on the other side too while they're there.
Well,
No.
that is true. We asked about, the other eight across the way, they had a temporary easement in the past, and they have a gate there.
Here at Tibbetts?
Yeah,
Yes.
right, there's another
Yeah,
gate.
honestly, I didn't even really
Well,
inspect that
opposite
one.
it, there's two
Yeah.
posts and there's a gate, and we asked them to consider talking with you about paving that apron at the same
Okay.
time, so that that apron for future use also protects the edge of the curb.
Perfect, yeah.
So you
I'm
can
all-
talk to them about
I'm
that.
all for that.
Okay.
If we're gonna pave aprons, I don't know if I'm as concerned with bonding them then.
So that was my next point, was that we did have the email correspondence
Yeah.
about doing the temporary driveway permits with the bond amount. So that's
Yeah.
something that we can work out as we work through the driveway permit
Absolutely,
applications.
yeah, yep.
Yeah. we can
Yeah, I
do
don't
that
know
permits.
if they're as necessary, because I was more concerned with, without the apron, that there'd be damage to the road, and if the apron basically protects our road edge, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, would the apron, if the apron would have to go in from day one then, correct, Scott?
Yes, yeah, it would, the apron would be completed prior to the work taking place. We'd like to see it before you start bringing in your timber mats and everything.
So for this scope of work, we would probably look at pursuing the temporary with the bond.
Okay, if that's, I'd prefer that if we're gonna have, if you're gonna be in there before the apron, so, okay.
One of our conditions of approval is always gonna be, you have to meet the DPW's requests and make them happy.
Oh, yeah.
It's all one big sentence and it takes it away.
Scott and I were-
One of the explanations that was provided to us by an Eversource representative there that day was that they want to align the two entrances
Okay.
for future access across, rather than coming out of one, driving down the road and going up the other, and that's for mowing or any other thing they do out there with
Okay.
track
Yeah.
equipment. It's a straight drive across, and it's less damage to the road.
Which means it's not a temporary thing, it's definitely gonna be.
No, it's a permanent.
Permanent
They
thing.
already said it was permanent.
Right.
It looks like that's a rather large lot, because, I mean, we do get into the tricky thing where you have the one driveway, they have a driveway onto their own parcel, and
Well, this access is between the two existing power poles, so no one's gonna,
yeah,
it's also at the request of the landowner.
okay, yeah.
They're working with the landowner for that. So it seemed pretty cut and dried.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, certainly we'll be in touch as we work out with the property owner too at this
Are there-
specific location, because it's a
Are
little
there
more
wetland
nuanced.
impacts on the access for that new drive, next one we're talking about on Tibbetts down to poles, either wetlands, do you have to timber mat or something down on that section?
Still in this
It's just
crossing?
a buffer, right?
Yes, we do have a temporary wetland crossing in this Tibbetts Hill to 116.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Yep.
right.
And
So
so that's
that's-
one of your wetland impact areas?
Correct. Yeah, and outside of that, in the buffer, because this is kind of managed, well, somewhat managed as farm field, this is all gonna be upland matting, even in the buffer.
Yeah, they're here, so they gotta come to the
We didn't walk in there.
No,
No, we didn't go down, no.
there's a fenced-in like area that they're gonna end up dealing with the landowner as well.
Is that the rest of it, Scott, or is that a different project, next page?
I was just looking.
Is that an extension
I
of this?
didn't recall that being on the last plan that I
Are we all set on,
You have any questions
Tibbetts?
for them, Scott?
got. No,
Everybody okay with the explanation for Tibbetts Hill at this time?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the last one.
And, what you'll see on the third page, there is this, we will talk about this, this is the alternative that was requested to look at in the field, but if we can first go to,
Yeah, let's go to the last application and we can come back and we'll have an
Yep.
explanation because that one actually relates to the last application.
correct. Yeah, so if we skip ahead to page 404, this is where we had the initial application. So this page is also where we have a couple of differences from the original application. So the first is that Eversource is looking to replace also structure 108. This is a new addition, this is the last wooden pole that's in this stretch from Blackbrook to Tibbetts Hill Road. So that was added on.
Yeah, we came a while after the pasture up here, yeah.
So we walked through.
So we came in here.
This is the elevation.
That's right, we came in here, walked up this way, and then this pasture.
yeah, I can see the contours.
All right, folks, let's all stop talking so that the applicant can talk.
Yep, so we added that structure. So there's an access that's proposed upland matting through the farm field. So that would be all be upland poly matted. The other difference that you'll see is in the initial application coming out of this wetland GW26. Originally, we were veering to the left to cut up that hillside. Eversource had their civil contractors look at this location and walk it, and their determination was the best way to go about it was to cut a straight through up through there. And that actually reduces the buffer impact from 2,891 square feet down to 2,104 square feet.
Okay. That's the area where any people who walked on the sidewalk were very concerned about the steepness of the slope.
Yep.
Now, your engineers can confidently tell us that you're gonna be able to traverse that slope with a road, and you're gonna make a road to the top up there?
Yep, the contractors that are typically brought on these projects, Eversource works with routinely, and they're doing it across the state, North Country, everywhere. And it is a steeper slope, but it's not anything that the contractors haven't dealt with before.
Okay.
Yeah, just, I can add, my name's Kurt Nelson, I'm manager of licensing and permitting for Eversource. I think part of the rationale for that is my understanding of the feedback that we've gotten. They prefer not to have turns going down a steep slope, you know, for safety purposes, for their purposes. They'd rather have a straight run, so.
Tippy. Question, on the plan 3 of 4 that we got in the original application, that the revised approximate wetland buffer that you've got now, which is the 2,100 as versus the 2,800.
Correct.
When it was the 2,800, you were proposing timber matting on that section.
No, it was always gravel through that.
On the buffer or on the wetland?
I can't tell the difference between the yellows. We have to come up with a different color.
The yellow that's bright yellow is where the mats go.
Correct.
The yellow that's a little bit pale or more pale is where the temporary road goes through the buffer area.
So what are you doing now as you come up that slope to get to the hayfield?
That would be the crushed stone.
So now that's crushed stone, and what's going on the, I mean, I'm talking about when you go in, you go down and up. So down is gonna have crushed stone?
Yes,
And up is gonna have what?
crushed stone. It's only at the bottom in the wetland where there's timber
Why
matting.
doesn't it have the same marking on it?
They are different colors. It's just it's difficult to see on the printout. It's a lot more vibrant.
Well, the
on
map
screen.
you gave us has hash markings
You
on
have
the
hash
downhill.
markings on half and not on the other.
Sorry, yeah, it's just pointing out the revised buffer impact area.
Oh,
That's to report the revised.
Oh, yeah.
That's just, it's a different symbology to show the
Boy, oh
difference. The
boy.
Yeah,
gray
we get a
that's-
lot of symbols on the
Yeah.
maps. It is very
The gray gets
difficult to keep
taken
track.
away.
We apologize.
You trying to confuse us or something
Right.
here?
Yeah. And
I'm
what's-
trying to
like,
keep it
what do you
organized.
wanna tell me when you go down, you only have to do one thing and not up? I mean, you gotta turn around and come back out. I'm like.
Yeah, it was just to show the different, the
Now we're
two
gonna have to
new
watch you more
areas.
closely since you're trying to trick us.
Building skyscrapers ain't just confusing.
All right, keep going, please.
And he does it.
All right, any questions regarding this access for this site?
Can I also mention too, for this location in this buffer, this was landowner request that the native topsoil in the buffer, the upland buffers would be stockpiled to the side, and after construction's completed, that topsoil would be scraped back over the crushed stone and seeded and hayed so that, although like in the gravel with the crushed stone access roads, vegetation does come up, this will allow it to more quickly come up with having that soil top dress back over, seeding and haying. So that will also help with the stabilization on the steep slope here.
Questions?
You guys are fixing that stone wall as well?
Yeah, it's separate outside of the permit, but Eversource is happy to work with the property owner to work on issues out there.
What stone wall are you talking about? The one by the road?
The one that was breached and not repaired.
Which was up towards the
But
hill.
hay-
Right past 106. They did the one on next to it, they did 110, and they breached the wall to get to 110 or something, I don't know what they did, but they broke a hole in the wall and they never put it back, and I think the landowner wants the wall restored as a wall again when they leave, if I heard him correctly.
I think state law requires that it has to be put back.
Well, I think their position was it wasn't this project.
Actually, Joshua, it's an internal wall and state law doesn't apply to internal walls. If the wall's on your own property,
Only on the
This-
property
this
line.
one's
only
a-
on
this
property,
one's a
on
property
boundary
line.
walls, that's where the state law applies.
This one's a property line, this one looks like an internal one. Because Because I think this is a property line, right?
No, I think Mr. Gossett owns all the way down, both sides.
Or are they
Is it
diff-
two
but they're
separate
different
parcels,
plots.
though?
Could be two separate parcels, but I believe he
Yes,
owns.
they may be two. I'm not sure which lines you're.
Where
There's a white line that goes right past 106 on the map. Is that a property line, or is that a separate lot that you're,
That's, it looks like from this map, it looks like it's a lot line,
yes?
and,
Is that where the stone wall goes?
stone wall, it's close to 106, but then it takes a left and ends up connecting with the stone wall out of the fields, and it goes very close to 110, because that's what we showed, how they were able to replace.
Just for the
structure
record, could you give your
110
name,
on one
please?
side. Sorry, Gossett C. McCray.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna let Mr. McCray work with Eversource, but we will put it on the record so that it will get done. Any more questions on the access road coming in from Blackbrook Road?
There was a discussion about coming in from another.
Well, that's
road.
her next discussion
Yeah.
she's gonna have with
Okay.
us. I was giving her a chance to breathe.
Give me a
So,
wave on
we asked you to evaluate, we're gonna go back one map to page
this.
3, and it's pretty easy to see how you might be able to go all the way to 108 from the other access road on Tibbetts Hill and not construct that other road. Can you explain your rationale for that, please?
Yep, so when you come off of Tibbetts Hill Road, we have two large wetland complexes. And the square footage of temporary wetland impact from Blackbrook Road is about 766 square feet. The temporary wetland impacts that would be occurring from coming off Tibbetts Hill Road would be about 5,995 square feet. In project planning, per the DES wetlands rules, part of the project planning is the applicant has to show avoidance minimization to wetland resources. In square footage alone, coming off of Blackbrook Road is the more avoiding and minimizing impact. In addition, GZA has gone out and reviewed these two wetland complexes. The darker green with the red hashing shows where we have very poorly drained soils, and in this instance, these are both organic soils, and these are highly valuable resources to DES, and they take impacts to those wetland resources very seriously. Coming off of Blackbrook Road, there is a very poorly drained segment, but we're not crossing that segment. Crossing from Tibbetts Hill would require very poorly drained wetland impacts. In addition, wetland GW28 has kind of this open surface water ponded area. This is noted as a turtle overwintering habitat and critical habitat for sensitive species in the area. Based on similar projects that we've had in coordination with New Hampshire DES and Fish and Game, their preference would be coming from Blackbrook Road, where it's a much smaller wetland crossing.
And what about coming up off pasture through that,
So that's next alternative review.
Any questions on the explanation for why Tibbetts Hill is not the choice for Eversource in this case regarding state permitting and wetlands impacts?
Up to the field. This is where you walk down and so.
All right, since they're having their own meeting over there, we'll move on, go ahead.
So the other alternative that we were asked to evaluate was coming up Tibbetts Hill, coming down the residential neighborhood of Pasture Drive, and there's this potential off right-of-way. This area is managed, owned by the town of Goffstown, and that's only one segment of it. You can see it's kind of, it's kind of like a open kind of woods farm road. It's not super wide, but there is access in there. But that's only one part of the equation. The other part is that access from the town only gets us to where this gate is. There's still a gap segment where we would need access permission from the underlying property owner. It's typical that Eversource will pursue off right-of-way access routes where the access is already existing and doesn't need any work that's done to it, or that it's impossible to access the infrastructure. This off right-of-way doesn't meet either of those because it's very feasible to get, wrong direction. It is feasible for Eversource to access off of Blackbrook Road. This is a feasible off right-of-way access.
So let me ask you a question. Off of Pasture Drive Circle, what looks like a driveway to a little lock symbol.
Yep.
That is a town of Goffstown-owned right-of-way. And then it looks like it comes to the corner of the McCray Field. Am I wrong?
It does, there's a gate there.
There's a gate there.
So what is the problem with asking the town of Goffstown to build a road down there and then accessing through the McCray Gate into the field? Why is that not an alternative?
Are you talking about right here?
Yeah.
Yep. I think another factor at play here is that, if
Can
I
you
may.
answer the question, please? I
Well,
want you to answer the
she
question.
said during her presentation that one of the things that they avoided is they try to use their own easement area, and that would require obtaining a new easement and permission to use it from the property owner.
Well, who's the property owner we're
McCray.
talking about?
McCray.
Well,
Well, we haven't gotten to
we'll
that part.
get to that.
And this was looked at in 2022 as a potential alternative. And the town DPW indicated that for Eversource to obtain a permit off of this, it would require a culvert, driveway culvert, a paved apron, a gate installed, and not to mention that the work that needs to get done for this to be utilized for Eversource needs tree trimming, and gravel to get down to here. And this would all be for temporary access, which is, when Eversource can access within their own easement right-of-way, the cost to have a more permanent access road in right-of-way is more feasible than just doing this for temporary, and then each time having to get in here needing temporary access each time. This would
Okay,
not be
thank
a
you.
permanent alteration.
Is something you'd like to add now?
If I may, yeah, I guess the other consideration that we have on our mind as well is that our entryway with the construction equipment, materials, et cetera, off of Blackbrook Road, there are no direct abutters at our point of entry. If we were to pursue Pasture Drive, we would be subjecting that entire subdivision to a fair amount of truck traffic that they might not otherwise experience. So there would be ancillary, temporary construction-related impacts to folks on that subdivision.
Okay. Questions? Everybody's awful quiet.
He said we're all very quiet.
So, I am going to open the public hearing and ask if anybody would like to speak. Mr. McCray, are you speaking? You're the only one here other than the Eversource gang. I'll ask you folks to skedaddle.
Yep. Gossett C. McCray, trustee for the McCray Family Realty Trust. Yeah, so we've been through the sidewalks, and yeah, I'm familiar with how bureaucracies work, and I think that's what we're running into. They want to come off Black Brook. The comments about it's not a residential neighborhood, no abutters, the people across the street, the people that call me and complain about this, and other times when they've had their contractors out there with their drones and stuff and some of the language, I guess no one hears them in those other houses, but they're gonna do what they want. And we'll see how, they've made a lot of promises. We'll see, but I'm not gonna hold my breath, unfortunately. So I don't know, we'll be pursuing other aspects about some of the other damage and injury done in the past projects, that they're saying they'll address some of them, not the others. I notice on this one they have a stone wall now marked on Black Brook, but most of that wall is gone, it's in a retaining wall. And they've said they're not gonna address that because it's not their project. So, other than that, I thank the board for their consideration for doing the site walk.
Can you address the Pasture Drive access piece over your property and your position on it?
So, yeah, I'm confused about that section or the piece because they've used it in the past. They've used it just a few months ago. So I'm confused when they say they don't use it. There would be, the easement I guess would be the out of putting the mats from the edge from that gate over to the structures.
Right.
And we've done things like that. They're actually showing in their current plan on the page, they're showing what'll be a temporary easement running around the edge of the hayfield, the blue. That's on map sheet 4 of 4, that blue. So it'd just be another, that blue would just continue right to that corner. So the various accesses, this is what confuses me, they've used in the past, not only has vegetation management used it, but the transmission group has used alternative access sources in the past, and it has not been a major heartache.
Question and follow-up. Chris, I think the blue, if I'm understanding, is within the easement though, right?
No, you see the pink line?
Which map are you looking at?
4 of 4, sorry, map sheet 4 of 4.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've, in this drawing, right, the blue's truncated along at the easement line. The field, the less productive part, is a little bit angled, so closer to like where you see the pink dotted line.
Okay.
I don't, secondary access is what their legend or index calls it. So they've used that in the past. We did that for the other structure, when the other structure.
So when you say they've used the access in the past, you're not talking about, are you talking about Pasture Drive, or are you talking about the other end of the easement that comes out on Tibbetts? Or no.
I think she's asking, how did they replace the steel structure number 112?
They
and
came
then
off Tibbetts.
And 111
Yeah,
and
they came off
110.
Tibbetts.
They were all replaced coming through Tibbetts Hill.
Correct, off Tibbetts, and then the matting followed more of the pink line. Stay out of the hayfield, went right along the edge.
Oh, okay.
Right, they came off. So pasture lane's been used so most recently it's been used by vegetation group. I know it's a different group and they have their own set of rules, apparently. But maintenance has used that, transmission group has used that. Transmission group has also used the access off Coriander in the past.
But 112, when it was replaced, came off of Tibbetts?
Tibbetts Hill, correct.
Okay.
And so when they needed access through pasture, did they contact you to open the gate?
Yeah, when we did like with vegetation, Andrew, we walked that in snowshoes in January, and they gave me a rough timeline. And so, yeah, I had the gate open. It's still actually not locked. It only looks like it's locked because they bounce back and forth a whole bunch. Same thing when in the past off Coriander. Yeah, they called up to us, the contractor, and said, can we go through there? And we walked it, and yeah, we set up the double lock system.
They have accessed your property from Coriander Way?
Yes.
Just right off the dead end?
Yep.
Did they have to cut through the woods? There's already a.
Would they make a
There's
road?
there's a gate in the road. They drove up what was existing there.
There's a gate in the road there?
Yeah.
And then from the gate, how did they get over there? Did they cut trees and or is there no farm road there?
No, there's a farm road there. And that contractor, I don't know if it's a skill issue or something, they got through. It's not major heartache. They had tracked and wheeled. I drive that with wheeled regularly. I haven't been down there. Some trees came down. I got to chainsaw those up. But and they came up, and that enters the. It's hard to tell in this picture, but it enters the field in the right of way, kind of a little bit below where you see the white or gray letters 108. Enters right about in there. So they've used all these other alternate access routes in the past.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. McCray? Okay, sir, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to public hearing? I don't see anybody, I'm gonna close it.
Because they just were.
So we'll invite you folks back up to get some more grilling. So I understand your statement that you want your own access roads in your own right-of-way. I understand that statement. However, when you have wetlands crossing, you would have to come back out with timber mats and all that to access that pole for an emergency, right? You couldn't just bomb through the wetlands again,
There
even
are-
in an emergency.
There's emergency authorizations through the Wetlands Bureau, so we do a retro wetland permit after, but they are authorized to go out and address emergency situations.
So in other words, if you had a line down, you have a process you can follow to go out there that night and timber mat it and get up to the pole.
Even without timber matting, track equipment.
Yeah,
And just drive through the wetlands.
Correct.
It's very clear.
follow-up restoration as needed.
It's kind of like when you lose a culvert and you gotta replace it, you do a retroactive permit that way too.
We heard from your representatives, you know, everything that costs money and it reflects on the ratepayers. I heard that at least 3 times during our site walk from different folks. But the point is that I still don't see the monetary differential between, for instance, getting the wetlands permits, at least applying for the wetlands permits on Tibbetts Hill Road, because you already have a gravel road all the way out there, versus Pasture Lane and going through the process of putting a culvert in and a gate and improving the road. It's got to be substantially less money to come from Pasture, even with a few hurdles, than it is to come all the way up the mountainside from Blackbrook. So we're talking about ratepayers and passing money, expenses on to ratepayers. That's a pretty big expense to pass on to ratepayers so that you can have a road up to number 106, 107 versus having access from a non-dedicated Eversource right-of-way. That's just my statement. Sir?
Kind of going along with that, you apply to DES wants to see the least amount of wetland impact, and you know, you have 2 other options besides the one you're proposing and the one we've asked for, 2 other options that don't impact any wetland.
So, I haven't personally been out off of, was it Coriander Way? We have team members that have gone out there to look at that and did not see the same conditions that were stated. That's all I can speak to on that.
But we do agree that off of Pasture, there would be no wetlands impact from that direction, correct?
Without a permanent access agreement off of that road, it's not as feasible as coming in and using Eversource's in right-of-way easement.
I get that, but that wasn't the question I asked. We do agree it doesn't impact wetlands going that direction,
No.
correct?
Scott, do you know why the town of Goffstown maintains that access to the field there?
I don't believe we maintain it.
I mean,
believe
own
we
it. Why do
just-
we own it?
It must have been part of that pasture subdivision is all I can
It's
think of.
part
It
of the
was-
history where we made sure that there was an easement to abutting land, so that
Okay.
if there was future development, there'd be through streets,
Yeah,
because we
so
don't want a bunch
basically-
of cul-de-sacs.
Just curious
all
as to
over.
why it happened.
Yeah, they've been like that all over that part of town when they did the big acreage development.
So it provides access to the field for future development.
For future development, if somebody
Okay.
was to develop through there.
All right.
I guess
Mr.
what
McCrea's
I'm,
retirement.
if I can just say, I sort of see the applicant issue with Pasture Drive, because we know that an office is gonna be getting phone calls, pretty much nonstop while all this is going on. And the Pasture Drive access, I didn't walk all the way to it. It is clear that there will have to be some maintenance in the Pasture
Agreed.
Drive access. There will absolutely, which is going to now make that a much more apparent path into the land of the trust, which I'm not sure if I was the trust, I would really want that to be wide open. However, it is no wetlands impact. The trade-off that I'm hearing from the applicant is that if they come in off of Blackbrook, they are agreeing to deal with the topsoil and reseeding of the area in that section that they're going to be doing the crossing, and replace it, repair it to the property owner's satisfaction, which I'm assuming would be that they're willing to agree to, since that was represented. And I'm unclear, there was some mention that there was, I understand that they are not gonna address the stone wall that is depicted along Black Brook. Yeah, that is depicted on sheet 4 of the paperwork today. I understand they weren't gonna deal with that, but did I understand that there was gonna be some potential restoration or make sure that any stone walls were put back as to other locations or not?
If Eversource was responsible for breaching or damaging a stone wall, we would certainly absolutely look to repair that, work with the landowner. I personally wasn't on the site walk. I don't know exactly when this stone wall was breached, but would certainly work with the property owner if that is in fact
Well, I guess
true.
my question is, that one is the stone wall by Black Brook. It's pretty obvious that it got mangled in the last pole replacement or 2 pole replacements ago, I don't know. So if we were to give you a conditional use permit to go through here, balancing the factors that you represented, what stone walls do you have to breach and deal with to do your repair work that would need to be restored? That's not clear to me.
Adam, I would like to invite
Why don't-
Adam Tebow, perhaps somebody from the site walk who was, or Ed, or somebody who was on the site walk who could speak to it a little.
And I'm sort of looking at sheet 4 of 4 as to what you have here tonight.
For the record, your name's fellow?
My name is Adam Tebow.
Ed Kinzer.
So, the discussion is about stone walls. Are there other stone walls within that path of the proposed access easement road that will be disturbed, that you know about?
That will be disturbed?
That will be disturbed?
No.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. There has been represented, there was one at the beginning of the access road at Black Brook that was disturbed and not replaced by a prior project. And we all saw the one up by Tower 106, that we saw that it was breached and not restored. Have you made any verbal agreements with the landowner that you are going to restore either one or both of those walls?
I guess I would submit to you that it's regarding the area of 106. We have spoken with the landowner, and if there's any issues that need to be resolved relative to that stone wall, we'd be more than willing to work with the landowner regarding
Okay,
that.
so that resolves one of the stone wall issues.
Correct.
How about the one from a prior construction, even though it wasn't your project, it was an Eversource job conducted by Eversource employees from a different group or something? Are you willing to agree that the wall that was there was damaged, or are you not willing to agree to that at this time?
Honestly, up on top of the hill, is that what you're talking about?
No, it's right at the beginning, when we first walked through the gate, there's a wall down there. When they rebuilt that tower up on the hillside, I believe there's a wall that Mr. McRae, and then there's another one next to 107 was also, no, 109. It looks like that's a steel tower also that may have been already replaced. So it's 108 and 109 coming off of, am I on the right map?
No, 109 hasn't been addressed yet.
I think he's looking
Yeah,
at the other
109
line.
is not.
Are you looking at the other line?
So is 108, was 108 done, steel tower? Yes, it's the one up on the hillside.
No.
On the C-196 line you're speaking of, right? The line that runs at the top of the right-of-way?
Correct.
Okay.
At
so-
the edge of the field.
So those are done as part of a previous project, correct?
Excuse me, I'm looking at 105, I believe. Can't see that one. 105 steel, right?
That's 104 that you're looking at. right
104. And that's 108 up on the hill.
there. Yeah,
Oh,
And that
you're
looks
looking
like a
at
steel
pictures.
tower.
that's a steel tower too.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
if you would, if you could just maybe have Lindsay point, just, we're all tracking on the same.
Yep. 104 is the first one in when we walk through the gate,
Yes, sir.
and above it and up on the hillside is 108.
Okay.
Those are both been replaced and they are presently steel?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So when those were replaced and the construction crews came in, Mr. McCray is alleging that there was a stone wall there that was smashed and destroyed. It was never replaced by the prior crew.
Okay.
We'd like you to continue discussion with Mr. McCray and see if you concur and if you are willing to fix that wall as part of this access for the project. I know it's an additional expense, but it was never addressed at a prior construction crew. And have you complained about this to Eversource?
Yeah, I complained when they were doing it, and they were
Okay.
taking the stones to make a retaining wall for the,
Base of the tower?
yeah, for the base of the tower, and they said, we can use any materials on site, but that's a property boundary. And they ended up into the, becoming part of the retaining wall.
So this is a he said situation between him and your prior contractors. Can you dig up the records on who did those? You've got records of stuff, right?
Yeah, we can know who was on the last
That'd be
project.
good to know.
I don't know if they've taken before and after pictures of stone walls prior to the project beginning and after the project was done. I don't know if Mr. McCray has pictures of the stone walls prior to us being there and after us being there.
We're asking that you make a good faith effort to resolve this.
We've
That's
talked to
what it's
Mr. McCray several times that we are gonna look at and address every issue that is feasible for this project. I mean, obviously cost is a factor on these things, like, you know, but we have met several times. There's several items that we said we would look to work on with him while we're out there to make good from those last projects, to include, you know, working on the stone wall up by, you know, structure 106. So you know, we'd have to look at that other stone wall. Like, I mean, honestly, I can say I didn't investigate it enough because it wasn't really part of our project, you know? So it would take work.
And I would submit the same thing, you know, obviously, we talked about the one that was up further on the hill.
Yeah.
You know, and we had that conversation, I think, Mr. Chairman, you and I had that conversation
Yep.
there. And so, if there are other issues that Mr. McCray has, we're more than willing to have a conversation with him, to listen, and to see how we can assist. Again, it's you know, it's a project team, we gotta look at it, and we gotta see, you know, how it all shakes out, but I have to go up there and put eyes on it, honestly.
We'd like to see your application process tonight, obviously, since you'd like to have the process, but when we have a bunch of open doors, it's hard to make a decision when the doors are still open. And the stone wall that is in contention down by 104 and 108 is one of those things that I have not heard a clear commitment from Eversource that you will fix the wall down there. I have not heard that. I've heard you are gonna look at it and talk to the old project manager, but, I mean, we're here to balance the landowners and their concerns as well as your concerns. We have to listen to both sides.
I can say that I don't know what is wrong with the stone wall that you're speaking of right now. I haven't seen it or had the team look at it, had the construction reps go out there and look at it. So I can't commit to something that I don't have a full understanding of.
Can I have a
Barbara?
question? You've made a representation that you've talked to the owner about. I recall standing by the gate, right? There was a gate there.
Right off the road.
Yeah.
Yep.
At this point, I turned to Tim and I'm like, was there a gate there? Because
Yeah.
I didn't take pictures. So are you going to have to do anything to the access as it currently exists to get your equipment in and out of there for the job? Are you going to have to do anything to the roadside by Blackbrook to get in and out of there?
No.
Okay, so whatever is currently there is sufficient for your access?
Right, I mean, we're gonna have to, obviously, yeah, they'll go through that existing gate and then obviously start building the road from Blackbrook to.
Right, but as, the wall as it is left, whatever condition as it is today, you're not having to adjust anything as it exists today. You can use the gate and get your equipment in to do your gravel work or whatever you need to build your road up.
That's my understanding.
At the point of entrance right there, yeah.
At the
that's
point of
what I
entrance.
understand. Yes, ma'am.
So that's the only thing for your project today, that's all you need. You don't need to do anything. You have access, it's sufficient, you can go in. It's not like these other places where you wanted to move the gate or come in differently. Okay. So then you're within the 2 power lines. There was discussion about the condition of the road and as it was left from the prior project with the landowner, and I understand that. And then we have the wetland buffer and crossing, or the buffer impact. that you're now changing it to be a straight through. And you've represented, I believe, that you've talked to the landowner and you've agreed that you're going to scrape the topsoil off, and top dress it with hay, and so it will come back. I'm not using the right terminology, but that area, you're gonna scrape off the good stuff, go through, and when you come out, you're gonna go back and you're gonna clean it all up there. That's what I heard, hay and putting it all back.
Replace side, put the loam to the sides and then restore the road with a layer of loam and hay.
Correct. Erosion control blankets on the slope.
Okay.
If I may just add a comment with respect to the comment from Mr. McCray. With respect to damage to the stone wall by 104 and 108, if what he is alleging is true, contractor took stones out of an existing stone wall and used that for grading, that's completely unacceptable. That's not an Eversource work practice. Our contractors are trained to understand the legal ramifications for stone walls, and the sad part about this particular project we have in front of you, that we have an allegation that there's been two walls here breached sort of willy-nilly. And I just want to impress upon this board, that is not our standard operating procedure. We work around stone walls all the time. We identify them in the field. If we see a property wall that needs to be, we have a problem with, we'll contact both property owners. We have a stone wall agreement. We would look to seek to put in a gate. If not a gate, we will seek to use bridge matting to bridge over the stone wall. So I just want to get that on the record, that in listening to this, one might assume that we're just sort of oblivious to stone walls. We are absolutely not oblivious to stone walls. We know the cultural significance of them.
You clearly all come from two different departments, because you're in the field on this project and have been there, and you don't, and I understand you don't want to commit to anything that you don't know is there, and then you have this guy coming and saying, oh, stone walls, we'll put them all back to the way they are. So I can imagine the heartburn that's going on here. But
if the allegation is in fact true, that our crews was responsible for that, then we will absolutely own that. The question is, we don't, as it stands right now, we don't have the, yes, you guys absolutely did that, and if our contractors did.
Well, I mean, I think if you go out to the site and you look, it is pretty clear that there were some stones that were moved up the hill, and you can sort of see where they got moved around for the.
You can see the type of stones that were in the wall moved.
You can just sort of tell. So I have to tell you, I don't have any expectation that this stone wall would ever go back to the way it was, but it certainly could look more like a stone wall and less like something that somebody sort of trampled through with giant equipment, because that's sort of what it looks through now. But I appreciate your representation as to what your work with the stone walls. I'm just trying to get on, for purposes of a motion tonight, what it is that has been discussed that we would be able to incorporate into a motion, so that people can go on their way, the landowner can feel like we're trying to address their concerns, and we give you the conditional use permit, so we can resolve this. I anticipate the pasture lane access, which I think makes more sense from the reality is you'd still have to bring your equipment in this way for 105, and then you've got to come around the other side. I don't know what that gains. So that's just sort of my view. So we're talking about the temporary issues associated with the wetland buffer. You're going to put it back with whatever you just said, erosion control, and make sure that it's back. And then you're saying that there's no need to breach any stone wall as it exists from 106 to 107?
I didn't see him and I walked it with them either. I only
Okay.
saw the one wall past 106 that was broken to work, and they said they were gonna fix that one.
So the wall past 106 was going to be fixed?
Yes, they said they were gonna fix that.
Okay. And then as you go past 107, because now you're getting to 108, which you've added since this was first heard, is there any other impact there for that access that's going to require some restorative work?
It's all timber matting all the way across both sides of the field. The blue
I
line is
know,
all
but
timber
I see
matting.
little white dots, which
Yeah, there is existing breaches in that stone wall already, which I don't, wanna speak for anybody, but those look like they were probably there to get equipment in and out of the field maybe, so. Those were there, like, never discussed about restoring that stone wall to anything else.
So the existing breaches for 107, 108 are not gonna be, they're sufficient and there doesn't need to be any further work on them.
Did you measure them? Because I think we heard that you needed 16 feet.
We had the contractors go out there and look at them, as well as our construction representative, so I did not personally measure them, but, they've said that access is sufficient for the equipment we need out there, so I take their word for it.
How would you validate if the previous contractor caused the issue across all the stone walls?
Honestly, yeah.
I'm asking, how would you validate that?
I think we need like pictures, like obviously before and after pictures are great things to see, like we can look and see if some were taken. Most of the contractors should be taken before and after
I hear
pictures.
that Eversource standard practices that they take the pictures, correct?
The contractors do the photo documentation and then we review them as part of our project, so.
Yeah, whether or not there are photos taken here, so, we'll work with Mr. McCray. If at the end of the day, the solution is, hey, I'm alleging your guys damaged that, and we don't have any evidence to that, and it's an easy enough fix, we'll just do it and put it behind us. We just want to be able to get in, have utilize our easement rights to access these structures off of Blackbrook Road. And we work with landowners all the time. We work with landowners all the time. We have a claims process. If Mr. McCray was unsatisfied with the response he got from the project team, Eversource has a claims process. I'm sure Ed can discuss that with him. If he has been legally wronged by us in some way, it's just a matter of, before we capitulate. None of us here have the former knowledge of saying, oh yeah, we absolutely did. I'm not saying we didn't. If we did, then we absolutely need to take ownership of it.
So what I just heard was, if you have no way to prove otherwise, then you'll fix that. That's what I think I just heard.
I don't want to speak on behalf of Adam, he's the project manager. If it's an easy enough fix, I would suggest we just do it. We make concessions for property owners all the time. Often address things that we're never doing.
I'd like to ask Mr. McCray a question, and maybe we can put this whole discussion to bed. Mr. McCray, are you confident that you are going to be able to work with Eversource to resolve these issues satisfactorily that would allow this application to go through tonight, or have you got more concerns than answers?
So I'm confident I will try to work with them, but in prior performance, as I said, I'm not going to hold my breath.
But this gentleman who just sat down has given us an assurance that he will work with you, he will accept past damages, and he will work with you to make repairs, even if it's moving a few rocks and putting them back in place for you. And if you're willing to take this man at his word, we don't have to talk about stone walls anymore. Because it's your stone wall and their breach, and we're just a planning board.
Right.
So if you are going to be satisfied, then I'm going to be satisfied. So that's what I'm asking from you at this point.
So the way I see it, I have no option but to take him at his word, because it's another crew, it's another operation. I mean, what he said and what they have.
Well, the difference right now is that we've heard them all say it on public TV. So it's not like nobody's backing you up at this point. We all heard it, we've heard the testimony given tonight, and if we take them at their word, it's all gonna get done, and everyone's gonna be happy at the end of the project. And that's what we'd like to see for a goal. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question here?
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the map and I got some satellite images here. On Pasture Drive, if you go back to 3 or 4 on your map, you guys all talked about this the piece of land that we own it as a town at the end of Pasture Drive. What's wrong with the easement right past August Drive to the right that goes out to your lines anyways.
They'd still have to cross the wetland if they did that.
Okay, because it doesn't show any wetlands here on the
It
satellite.
does on their map, though. Wetlands aren't just water.
No, I understand that,
They're
but, no,
Do you see pole number 110 and number 114?
yep,
That is a wetland area that they would, even if they came in.
They still have to go that way.
right, but they have a secondary access here.
That's a private driveway, not a secondary access.
Okay.
They don't have a deeded right of way
This is
through
an
there.
alternate access, is what I'm saying, I didn't know why.
Well, I think this goes to
Their arguments are well founded in easements and how to get from A to B legally. We're just trying to find a way to do something other than do another wetlands crossing, but it doesn't seem to be working.
I will just say, and see, maybe people agree or don't, that I agree that for the reasons of residential impact, and the fact that there would need to be 2 entrances for the work on this, that the pasture drive access, which also is over a private land for which no easement exists, does not make sense. I think the town owning the property was for purposes of future development, not for access. Clearly, Eversource didn't have any interest in it. And frankly, I see the potential long-term detriment to the trust property by having a more open access to the field off of the lane at Pasture Drive. I also don't really think I've been given enough information on Coriander Way access to consider that a viable access. You might be able to get into something from that with a truck, but I suspect with the equipment we're talking about that that's not viable, and it would have the same issues as Pasture Drive as far as access. So
We don't know who owns 937 either, map 937, lot 37. We don't know who owns that lot, it's not listed on our, the one at the end of Coriander Way,
I think 937 is the trust.
that's your land as well? Okay.
That's the trust.
McRae Trust land, okay.
So I think the same logic for the Coriander Way access, with the exception of the fact, and it also includes the fact that there's no Eversource easement through all that property to be building a big
I
access
didn't see
road.
that, my fault.
So I don't think those two make sense. So I think that the proposed access from Blackbrook Road makes sense. I think, I want to say that I think the owner and the applicant to add 108 to this project and to get it done was a good move. And I am inclined to go through the conditional use conditions in connection with granting a permit based upon the applicant's representation that in connection with structure, the access off Blackbrook Road, there'll be a effort to do what can be done with existing material on site to restore the stone wall as they represented that they have sufficient access without further breach of the stone wall at that point. That in connection with the crossing of the wetland buffer and area, which now does not impact the wetland, that they will do the erosion control methods and restore the area as requested by the landowner to ensure that the vegetation grows back quicker. I will say as a side note, it was pretty clear that there was some movement from the previous work as to stones falling into areas that were probably not where they were placed for the access for the work that was done previously. And that to the extent there was an issue with the wall past 106, that would be restored.
Before we start the conditional use permit discussion, I'd like to ask a few questions for the record of the applicants. On our site walk, we talked about inspection scheduling. What is Eversource's plan for during construction and post-construction inspections by Eversource employees and the environmental people?
So Eversource has their environmental contractor, which in this case will be GZA. We conduct weekly site inspections for sediment erosion controls. and to monitor the work locations that are active and ones that are in restoration. This is per the EPA construction general permit, so we are required to do the weekly inspections. Once construction is completed, we have a obligation through that construction general permit that the construction sites need to be displaying about a 70% stabilized vegetative cover before we can terminate the permit with the EPA. Similar for the Wetlands Bureau, in wetlands we need to continue to monitor it. With this work being done in off-growing season, it'll probably be monitored through next growing season until we reach the stabilization that we need through DES, which for wetlands is about 85%.
Well, I appreciate your explanation on the environmental part of it. I'm talking about the actual tower construction. Do Eversource employees go out and are they there with your contractors when they are digging roads and doing work, or you just turn them loose and they report back to you on some schedule? How's it work?
No, we have a construction rep has a presence out there, usually daily, to check in with the crews and see what's going on. So, and when it comes to the structure replacements, our internal crews are going to be doing that work, and we will have an internal construction rep that will be out there monitoring them. So they're not. It's not like they get the contract and then we'll see you when the road's done. And I've also talked to the construction rep that he will make a daily presence out there, and I told him I could go out there as well. But I know Mr. McRae had issues with trash being left in the past. I've already talked to the contractors about that they will do sweeps at the end of the day to make sure that they're not leaving behind any trash. So I feel like we've taken a lot of Mr. McRae's concerns and we've spoken to the contractors. We talked to them before we got their proposal, and we've talked to them since then. So we are going to make every effort to make sure. I know it's probably hard for him to believe, but when this project's done, I would like him to say, you guys did good by me. You guys are good neighbors, and we work well together. And that's my goal for this project, to make sure that both of us are happy. Everybody's happy when we walk away. So.
Good, so you're representing that you have Eversource employees that will be making, hopefully, daily visits, if possible, to the site to inspect what's going on, see how the road construction goes, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, and this is at a minimum, it will be daily.
Go ahead, Richard.
Do you have a project manager here that's gonna be reporting back to you on a semi-annual,
I am the project manager.
so you'll be on that project, or?
I will be on this project from start to finish, so the construction rep will not change. Ed is our project engagement person, so we will be there for the life of this project.
Our construction rep is the boots on the ground. They're the ones that interface with the contractors that are out there when they're doing the civil portion. And as Adam said, we also have our internal crews, which are Eversource employees, that should be out there as well. And so that's going to be part of it. So
the construction manager is an Eversource employee?
That's correct.
Okay, he's not an outside contractor?
No, sir,
Okay,
no.
all right.
Okay, that's number 1 and 2. Number 3 got answered about the alternate route from Tibbetts Hill satisfactorily. We spoke about restoration at the pad sites, easement restoration at the pad sites. As a person who owns land that has a Eversource easement through it, I own the land. You have an easement to cross my land and have your towers in place and do your work. You do not have the right to change my land and leave it changed when you walk away. So I would hope that if any earth is removed to construct temporary pads around the pole sites for safety reasons or matting or whatever you're going to do, that all that earth would be restored, and whatever the land looked like when the contractor got there, it looks like when he leaves. No, you can't mine people's land and use their soil to build a pad around your pole and leave it there. It would have to be, the easement has to be restored to its original condition, other than the road and anything you may import to have a safe pad site for future use. And that's what I'm talking about. Now, you want to address that?
I think for Mr. McRae's property, I think the plan is in place here, that what you're getting at is in fact the case here. as far as a legal interpretation of easement rights and our ability to do civil earthwork, move earth around, we feel pretty secure in our ability to do that under our easement rights. That being said, if there are particular landowners with particular concerns or land use, obviously hayfields, pastures, that sort of thing. General practice in an unimproved section of right-of-way corridor, we would seek to do civil improvements, whether that be cuts, fills, et cetera, using the land within the easement corridor as needed to construct our work paths and things like that.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen on my land ever, because we're gonna have in court. Because I don't believe you have the right to take my earth out of my ground, create a pad, and leave me with a big cut bowl in the back of my land. I don't believe you have the right to do that. So I'm stating to you that I would expect that anything that you disturb, you restore. Simple. You disturb the land, you restore it. That's just mine.
No, sir, yeah, on your
So-
property, sir, if you had a particular, you know, other use, you had a certain use in that right-of-way corridor, for the most part, you know, lots of our easement land, there's no, underlying property owner has no intended use for that land. So that would be our general practice. But again, if a particular property owner has concern or has a usage, whether it be agriculture or what have you, we would work with them to the extent they can.
I think that we're gonna trust that you have a good faith working relationship with Mr. McRae, so I think that's what we're
Correct, yeah.
taking out of this.
And although that, you know, our work paths are larger during the scope of the work, our objective is to get those things down
Right.
to a much more reasonable, you know, obviously, you know, Kurt's team, Lindsay's team, you know, we, from an environmental standpoint, and from a, you know, we want a safe place for if guys have to go up and repair a pole. We want that, obviously, that's a safety piece, but we want to get those things shrunk down
Right.
and try to, you know, get things.
You stated that at the site.
Yeah,
Okay.
You talked about before and after pictures. Who's gonna be responsible for before and after pictures of this project?
our team can work on that, sir.
Okay.
The civil team is gonna take before and after pictures, so the people that we contract are contractually obligated to take before and after photo documentation.
So I'm gonna assume Mr. McRae will have his own barrage of pictures to compare. I just wanna make sure that that base is covered, that somebody is doing it.
Yes, it is part of the contract.
All right. Anybody else? Barbara?
Perhaps Ms. White could refer to her July 10th correspondence to review the conditional use requirements and how you meet them. We usually have the applicant do that on the record, and I don't know that you did that the last time, did you?
I wasn't here for that meeting.
Oh, you weren't?
No, we had a different
I'm just
meeting.
remembering you from the sidewalk.
Yeah.
All right.
She's been here.
Guild Bar Association.
Yeah, you've been here, you've been here before. All right,
Guild Bar
so
Association.
this
yeah.
is a correspondence that you wrote and provided your cover letter to us. And so we're here for a conditional use permit, so I'm just gonna ask you about,
Answer the questions.
so the first requirement of a conditional use permit is that the use is specifically authorized in the ordinance as a conditional use, page 4. You've represented that 13371 allows it, so if you could just, you don't need to go through the whole paragraph, we have it, just explain how it's allowed.
Did they answer them in our application, Barbara?
It's in the letter of July 10th, but we usually put it on the record.
Which was part of the application.
Correct.
So can I give her my copy so she knows what she's looking at?
I think she's got it.
I have
Okay,
one. I
good.
wasn't sure if it went through, if it was discussed at the
Okay, I just
last
didn't want to
meeting.
feel
I
blindsided.
don't think it was, that's why I just want you to give an overview of each one.
Use is specifically authorized by 13371 in the Goffstown 2025 zoning ordinance that planning board may grant those CUPs to allow construction replacement of pipelines, power lines, and other transmission lines.
In the Wetland Surface Water
Yes.
Conservation District. Okay, and the second requirement, and you expanded upon that in the letter, and then the second requirement is if completed as proposed by the applicant, the development in its proposed location will comply with all the requirements of this section and with the specific conditions or standards established in this ordinance for the particular use. And you discussed about the temporary nature and erosion controls, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the use will be compatible with the neighborhood and the adjoining or abutting uses in the area in which is to be located. And you pointed out that this is an existing right-of-way and it's replacing existing structure, and as such, then it continues to be compatible as it's currently used, is that correct?
Correct.
You're not changing the right-of-way?
Correct.
The fourth requirement of a conditional use permit is that it won't have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular or pedestrian safety. Is any of this done on a roadway so there's no vehicles?
Correct.
And pedestrian safety is not anticipated to be an issue on the right-of-way on private property. And the fifth condition is the use will not have a substantial adverse impact on the appearance and visual quality of the surrounding neighborhood. And so the biggest visual impact would be the change in the poles, correct?
Correct.
And these are going to be slightly taller?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be the change in those, and they're going to be a different color.
Yep, weathered steel.
But it's an upgrade to required standards and
Yes.
should blend in
Correct.
better than the pole in Dunbarton with the pine tree branches on it.
Looks so real.
I love that tree. And then the last one is that the use will be adequately serviced by necessary public utilities and has sufficient capacity to ensure operation. In fact, it is a utility, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Have you seen the conditions of approval, any of you folks?
Yes.
Did you see condition 8 that the Conservation Commission recommended?
Yes.
And you have you're willing to comply with that condition about the filter fabric under the last layer, of the timber matting where you're going to install timber matting?
Yep.
I guess that's designed to keep mud from
falling
filtering
through.
through timber matting and finding its way down into the wetlands.
Correct. Yep.
Any other discussion? I'll look for a motion then.
You all just want to go home, and I'm the only one that talks. All right. Based on the applicant's representation, the staff recommendation, and making a finding that based upon not only the presentation and the site walk, that the conditional use requirements are met by this project, and incorporating the staff conditions 1 through 9. I haven't heard any objection to any of these. And more succinctly, that it meets town zoning and land use regulations concerning a conditional use for a utility company, as staff recommended. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
And note for the
Joshua?
record that,
Did you second it?
yes, he did. And note for the record that I'm also making this motion not only in the conditional use, but based on the other things that I mentioned earlier in regards to Pasture Drive, Tibbetts Hill access, and working with the current owner and Coriander. I didn't actually talk about Tibbetts, I talked about Coriander. I don't know where it
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One opposition, abstention? No abstentions. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time you all took to come out for the site walk. We appreciate your help in answering our questions. And we look forward to that. Mr. McCray is really happy with you guys in the end. Thanks.
He's gonna be ecstatic.
I was going by your house for first week.
So we have upcoming meetings, Joanne, on September 25th. We have no applications at this time?
Correct.
Excuse me?
September 25th,
Oh, we have a couple of
3
applications.
conditional
We
use
have 2.
permits.
So they're not listed.
Yeah, I don't know why, but they're not listed, but we have 2.
There's 3.
So we have,
One doesn't need it any longer.
So we have applicants on the
which one?
25th? Let's not discuss what they are.
We have applicants.
We have applicants. And October 9th is empty at this point, to your knowledge?
Yeah, it's empty,
See how it
but
goes.
it's still far away.
See how it goes. Joanne, we are not going to talk about the development regulations tonight. It's 10 minutes of 10.
I'm
And I've had
gonna
enough.
email you about time to talk about those.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Pretty free next
I will
week.
accept your motion as long as there is no other business to be conducted tonight from anybody. Motion to adjourn?
Bill, did you make your motion?
No.
No, John.
Josh will be to it.
Oh.
He was anxious.
Okay,
I
motion
thought we
to,
were gonna be working on these. I brought an extra copy for him.
we have a motion to adjourn. Any discussion on the motion?
I would like to discuss it.
You can discuss it later. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you, GTV. We are adjourned.